Here.
Vandermeer.
Here.
Deskin.
Here.
Turner.
Here.
Smith.
Here.
Colorelli. Capadona.
Here.
7 present.
Thank you. I believe Alderman Colorelli had to go to a, what was that, Ben? As somebody's in the hospital?
Yeah, his mother had open heart surgery.
Okay. So, be out tonight. Okay, I have a couple public hearings that we want to get out of the way real quick. One is for the Highlands and the other's for the Meadows at Arch Point. So I'm just going to read these because I've never been able to memorize this. This public hearing is being held pursuant to Illinois law to consider amendments to an annexation agreement formerly known as March for property generally located north of 151st Street and west of I-355. This hearing is being held pursuant to Illinois law and in compliance with the notice requirements of the Illinois law. This is to notify you that after this hearing, this amended annexation agreement may be further modified before its execution. The city staff will now go over the provisions of the amendments to the annexation agreement. Is this something that Tom takes or Ben?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, for the Highlands, it's a proposal that you saw a concept plan on a few weeks ago, and that it's for a multifamily project along the expressway in 143rd, and I believe you saw details on it. I don't recall the specific unit number, but it's based on a product that was very successful in Algonquin. I believe you'll see some further details of it later, and if you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer those questions.
Okay, thanks, Tom. Are there any persons in the audience that desire to be heard concerning this amended annexation agreement? Are there any members of the City Council that desire to be heard concerning this amended annexation agreement? All right. There being no one else that desires to be heard, then I call this hearing to a close. And the second one is for the Meadows at Archer Point. This public hearing is being held pursuant to Illinois law to consider an amendment to an annexation agreement known as the Meadows at Archer Point to accommodate a regional lift station on the Reposh property. This hearing is being held pursuant to Illinois law and in compliance with the notice requirements of Illinois law. This is to notify you that after this hearing, this amended annexation agreement may be further modified before its execution. City staff will now go over the provisions of the amendments to the annexation agreement.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, this is in the same neighborhood. This will accommodate a regional lift station that was not anticipated when the annexation agreement was originally approved in 2009. The proposed amendment will allow the construction of the regional lift station, a contribution from the owner, Mr. Reposh, of $200,000 for future residential tap-on fees that will go towards the cost of the lift station. This will help open up a development corridor in that area and will expand the development opportunities for the city and the private property owners in that area. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have on the proposed amendment to the 2009 agreement.
Okay. Are there any persons in the audience that desire to be heard about this? Any members of the council? Anyone else that desires to be heard? I call this hearing to a close. Thank you. All right, moving right along. Pam has been revived our business spotlight program, and she has a few folks here to talk tonight.
I do. Unfortunately, our first person from Grandfather's Eatery was unable to make it this evening. Her son is in a hockey tournament, and so they got tournament this evening. But I do have my 2 other representatives. The first one up is Sizzles, which is located at 571 South Division Street. Mervat Nolte is the owner and operator. Hi.
Come on up, Merv.
Right.
Tell us about Sizzles.
Sizzles is actually 571 East 13th, but that's okay. They'll find me. I'm at 5 Corners, the cursed corner. But what we do is we actually do everything fresh to order. We use hormone-free meats. We use hormone-free dairy. We cook our food fresh to order, so when you come in and you order, we're actually hand battering, deep frying, starting your food up. I see a lot of my regulars sitting in here, so we actually have fantastic food. We get raving reviews. We're all about the community, so we try to be involved in our community here. We give back. We participate in Lockport Love very heavily. It's something that we believe in because if you're going to take part as a business, you have to take part in the community. It's really important to know who you're serving. So we're all about quality as a virtue. Quality service, quality food, quality people. It creates a better business. It creates a bond with the people that I'm able to serve. I have some examples of our food. Those are our top sellers. I have a flaming chicken salad. Flaming chicken salad is made with a fresh grilled or fried chicken breast. You get your onion straws, you get your fresh cut bacon, you get cheddar cheese, and then you of course get your choice of dressings. All of our dressings are homemade too. So you get your choice. This is a hell of a hottie burger. We make these burger patties. So you're never going to receive a perfect preformed patty. You get beef that's never been frozen. You get an 8 seasoning blend in them. All of our seasoning blends, batter mixes, everything, they're unique to my location. It's something that I work very hard on. When you taste it, you can see that there's quality there. You can text your order in to us. You can also go on Facebook and look at Sizzles in Lockport. You'll find our full menu, pictures of our food. You can call your order in ahead of time, so if you're in a hurry, you'll be in and be right out. You just have to call ahead and let us know you're coming. Pretty much all I have to say about.
No, that's great. And I can testify for you on your behalf, Murph. You are full of energy, and you really have just embraced being a part of Lockport. And there is no doubt your food is outstanding. It is noticeable.
I agree.
And so, yeah, and I know the council members who've been there, they agree. And it's my true belief, when you do it right in Lockport, you will succeed. There's this myth that anything goes here, and it's not true. And I'd already know because I'm standing in line now when I go to your place.
Exactly.
And so,
yeah, exactly. I mean, we've done what we have to do to make it grow. I've focused on what the weaknesses were in your market sector that you have out here. And you can see that your food quality, there are some really awesome places out here. But then there are some that are just serving the same generic thing over and over again. So it's just trying to avoid doing that. So like the sandwich of the month, if you go on Facebook, you can vote, and I'll actually try to make your sandwich. I try to do exactly what you asked me to do. So that's kind of what our whole deal is we're only here because of the support of Lockport. We're not here because we're so awesome and I have all this money. But we're here because you're keeping us there. So
well, once you make a lot of money, don't leave.
okay. Keep us there. Yeah, no, I won't.
Well, thanks again, Murph.
Thank
Mayor?
you very
Appreciate
much for
you.
your time.
Mayor, can I say a few words about Merv? I had the great pleasure of meeting Merv right before Thanksgiving when she volunteered to make Thanksgiving dinner for all the Lockport Love families, which she did. She came in with her staff on Thanksgiving and made Thanksgiving meal. She also did it for Christmas. She gave goodie bags. She's a very generous person, and it just so happened that they have great food as well. If anybody's interested in more information on Lockport Love, we have a website, www.lockportlove.com, and that website was actually furnished by Alderman Kelly Turner and maintained by him. So thank you very much. It's a great website and works out well.
You just muscled in on the business spotlight, man.
He did.
That's all right. Thanks, Terry. Thanks for all you do with that. Thanks, Kelly. That's right. All right, you guys. Speaking of another blessing we have here is Vegan Cafe.
Hi, folks. I'm Marguerite Rominski, and I first want to thank you for having me here. We're a little pearl in the middle of Lockport. We do raw, vegan, gluten-free, and non-GMO products. Everything that we do is in-house. Nothing is cooked beyond 110 degrees, and that is the dehydration process. And the theory behind that is anything above 110 kind of kills off your enzymes and your nutrients. What I can tell you is you will walk out of here after having a delicious meal and a hearty meal feeling energized. You will not feel like you need a nap in an hour. We are completely plant and nut based, and anyone who has a nut allergy, we will also accommodate you as well with seeds or oats or something like that. I do have to specify again, we are gluten free. A number of our desserts are gluten free, dairy free. We actually do cheesecakes. So, and I have actually brought some things for you to sample as well. And we offer classes twice a week, and that is on our website and also on our Facebook page. If by some chance there's something that you want to learn that you've really enjoyed at the cafe and it's not on the menu, on the class list, call and ask us. We will do that. Our classes run $30 per session. They last about 60 to 90 minutes. We will teach you everything from soups, basically soups to nuts, literally.
Yeah.
Our entrees include 2 side salads, and we do everything from loaded burgers to nachos, and we are now featuring a variety of soups. We also do a meal plan for people that are very serious about getting into the health-conscious movement. We offer a meal plan. It's $170 per person, and that is specific to you. You can't really give it to anybody else. And that entitles you to 12 meals and 2 complimentary desserts. The good part about that is it never expires once, so if you decide to come in once a month, 17 months, or 12 months rather, you're fine. It also represents about a 25% discount off of the menu price, which is great. We also do group events. If you wanted us to come to your corporation and do a demonstration on how to make some type of one of our delicacies, we're glad to do that as well. Or if you want to do an in-home thing, and that's more of an extension of what our classes do as well. The health benefits and why I got into, and I will tell you, I found this place through Groupon 3 years ago. My husband and I went for dinner. We loved it. I was very intrigued. I got on the website and saw that they were volunteer-based at the time. I thought, this is great. I like to volunteer my time, so I started volunteering. I also saw that they had classes. My other business is catering. Once I left corporate America, I opened up a catering company and decided to learn this, so maybe I can incorporate it into for my people too. I was volunteering so much that Lori, who was the former owner, asked if I wanted to buy it. So I said, what, are you crazy? No. But you know what? I couldn't find any reason why I wouldn't do it. And I love the historic district of Lockport. It reminds me very much of a place that my father had back in Hammond, Indiana, back in the early 60s. And ironically, his place was a half a block from the train tracks. We're a half a block from the train tracks. And the other irony is his place was on Sibley, which was a block south of State. We're on State. So it all fit. This was what I was supposed to do. But I want to get back to the health benefits. I have had multiple sclerosis for about 22 years. I take no disease-modifying drugs. I'm not going to stand here and tell you I'm totally vegan. I'm not. I'm not going to lie to you. I love Sizzle's food, too. But I do eat primarily this way. I probably eat about 80% raw vegan, and it has done wonders for my health. Again, I am not on any disease-modifying drugs. Lori, who I bought it from, also has had her share of health problems as well. She started eating this way. She's doing great. I also want to let you know that we do purchase our juices and smoothies from Lori Sloan's place at Naked Sprout, 2 doors down. She just opened up a yoga studio right next door to the Naked Sprout as well. I would encourage you, if you want to make a night of it, go to the Naked Sprout, get yourself a juice, take a yoga class, and then come over to the cafe for dinner. You will feel great. That's actually all I have to say. What I would encourage you to do is have a look at what we do over there. I have a taco meat. I'll add that too. Again, we are plant and nut based. The taco meat, for example, that I have there is made out of almonds, sun-dried tomatoes, and Mexican seasonings. When you process it, it will literally taste like meat. The thing that, if you have never had it before, you have to get past the fact that it is cold, because people have said, well, do you have a microwave? I don't. And I don't because, again, anything above 110, you're losing all your vitamins, nutrients, and enzymes. But when you do come in, if you are new, we will ask you if you would like a small sample platter, and we will let you try our more popular items. So, and again, I want to thank you for asking us to come here, and I encourage you to come on down.
Well, thank you, Marguerite. And I can also give a testimony for you because I've eaten there, and you cannot tell that the almonds are not taco meat. It's really very good. And it's true. You guys are not just a restaurant. You're like a healthy eating ministry down there.
We appreciate
and
that.
we appreciate you being down there.
Our proceeds also, much of it goes to charity as well. So I carried on Lori's mission, and we also do donations. I do not collect a salary whatsoever. Just donate it right back. Give back to the community.
Well, thank you again. Appreciate it. All right. Well, fantastic. Thanks again, Pam, for reviving our business spotlight. And I want to move something up on the mayor's report here. I wanted to one of our consultants here, the retail coach, is in today, and was going to give us an update. So, Aaron, if you don't mind. Hey, Jack.
Well, Mayor, thanks for having us here. Wanted to give an update on where we're at on the process. My name's Aaron Farmer, Vice President of the Retail Coach. I've met most of you here, and I've had a chance to spend a lot of time in Lockport with, Pam's been a great host when I'm here touring my team around the community and really just helping us understand Lockport. If we're going to be out there working with your local businesses, if we're going to be out there working to recruit new businesses, we've really got to understand Lockport. So really, I like to say we've got to know it as good as one of your best real estate agents. If we're working with a retailer, working with a restaurant, what sites are available? What properties are available? Those sort of things. So wanted to provide you an update. You'll see up on the screen, on your screen in front of you there, what we've determined as the retail trade area. Now, the retail trade area is where consumers are coming to shop and eat in Lockport. And we did this by going to talk to your local businesses, going to talk to a number of your national retailers, and really trying to get a feel for who is that customer, who is that everyday customer. If we're out there trying to recruit retailers and restaurants, they're going to want to know how large of an area we're going to pull from. So you can see it's not a computer model. This is not something we just set a radial or a drive time on top of the community, a computer model. We actually hand drew this trade area. You'll see on here the population in the trade area just under 100,000, 98,496 that shop here on a regular basis. Average household incomes look good, just under 100,000 as well, and then your median household income 79,000. So well over the state average. Numbers look good. Just to look at the demographics on a separate sheet, I hit on a few of them. Your median age and your average age down at the bottom of the screen there, 39.8, 39.1. So that's also about average for the state. What we've got here is 2015 numbers, and these are really hot off the press. You'll see at the top left of the screen there, for the city of Lockport, we're showing a growth over the next 5 years. That's probably a little bit low from what we've talked to from a couple of developers. They're seeing some other things. But what I like to see is that retail trade area population getting over 100,000. That's key to a lot of those higher caliber retailers and restaurants. 100,000 is that benchmark. So, this is just a snapshot of the demographics. Like I said, these are hot off the press, 2015. But we literally have hundreds of pages worth of demographics that go into how many cars does the average household have in the community. How far does the Lockport consumer, how far do they drive to work every day? So a lot of good information. All of that information retailers, restaurants, developers want to see. So one of the things that we did once we had that trade area determined is we really wanted to understand what is the retail opportunity. You probably have heard in our meetings talk about retail leakage or retail gaps, money that's leaving Lockport and going to other areas. So what we've done is we looked at that trade area, that 98,000 people that live in that retail trade area, and we identified a total opportunity. They're spending about $1.8 billion on a regular basis. We then looked at what the actual sales were in Lockport at all of these individual categories, and it gave us either a surplus or a leakage. Some of the categories, and I won't run through all of these today, but some of the categories that really stood out to me down at the bottom of the page here, clothing stores. A tremendous amount of leakage as far as clothing stores go, about $46 million in clothing leakage. Flipping down to the next page here, a large leakage is in sporting goods as well, about $14 million that's going to other areas. General merchandise, even though you've got the wall does very well, you're still leaking in that general merchandise category. Retailers that fit in that category, Target, those types of retailers and restaurants. And then down at the bottom of the screen here, your restaurant leakage. You've got some great restaurants. We just heard from a few of your local restaurants, but you still have a large leakage as far as restaurants go. So we're still seeing a leakage in the full service restaurants, which that's your waiter, your table service type restaurants, and then also your limited service, which is more of your fast food type restaurants. I will tell you, having been to the community as many times as I had, this is actually my 6th time in the last 10 months or so to come to the community. I've had a chance to quiz a lot of consumers walking around downtown with Pam and going to restaurants and quiz them on what are some of those things that are missing here. number one response I got was those national brand casual sit-down restaurants. That was what we heard a lot of people are leaving for. So you've got some great restaurants here, but that's the one category. And then on top of that, clothing. We heard a lot about the clothing. We heard a lot about parents tell us we can't find the kids, we can't find the high school age, that type of clothing here that much. So just wanted to point that out. I won't go through every category here, but the gap analysis is a really good tool to have when we're going to ICSE conferences, those sort of things, to actually be able to show a specific amount of money or specific amount of opportunity for these retailers to be successful. On top of the gap analysis, we also looked at something called psychographics. And psychographics is a pretty neat tool to have, but what it does is it takes demographics to the next level. Best thing I've heard it described as is demographics on steroids. So instead of looking at the average Lockport consumer based on their age, their income, those sort of things, what it does is it looks at the consumer based on what are they buying, where are they shopping at, what types of brands do they buy, those sort of things. So what we've done is we've broken Lockport into all of these individual lifestyle sectors. So each of us here in this room have our own psychographic segment that we fit into. So I won't go through these in too much detail, but they all have a funny name to them or have a name tied to them. Savvy Suburbanites is one of the names of the categories. And once you have a chance to kind of read through this information and really look into it in detail, you'll start to say, oh, that's the category I fit into. But what it does is for each of these categories, it tells us, and I don't have it here in this presentation, but you can really dive into it. And as a local business, really try to understand your consumer better. What types of brands are they buying? Are they buying Kraft macaroni and cheese? Or are they buying, Jewel brand macaroni and cheese? Those sort of things. It talks about what restaurants, what retailers they look at. So the top segment was savvy suburbanites, well-educated, well-read, well-capitalized. If you get in further into it, you'll see the incomes match up with what you have in the community here. So pretty neat information to have. Soccer moms was the next category that made up the one of the larger segments here. Professional pride, well-educated again. That was one thing we noticed throughout each of these psychographic segments is just a very well-educated trade area. And then Green Acres was another one. So just a lot of good information there. Psychographics, like I said, is one of the newest things in the retail industry. A lot of the retailers are just catching on to it. Bass Pro Shops, Walmart were two of the first to really use that information. But I've got a tremendous amount of success stories, not just those national retailers using this information, but also local businesses. So wanted to just point that out to you, and I'll show you how you can really dive into that information too. Also, on top of the psychographics, demographics leakage, what we've done is we've really packaged marketing materials, really retailer-specific marketing materials. If we're going after a specific retailer and restaurant, the marketing materials, the information that we're putting together, we want it to be branded specific to that retailer or restaurant to really show them that gone the extra mile to really customize it for them. So all of the retailers, all of the restaurants, all of the developers have a package. We call them feasibility studies. Basically trying to convince these retailers, these restaurants, they can't afford not to locate in Lockport. So that's our goal going forward. We had a chance to pass these out at the ICSE conference. We've emailed them, we've mailed them out, and we're starting to see, we hopefully will have some, we're talking to several retailers and restaurants. We can't probably don't want to announce tonight, but that are going to be a direct result of this study. So it's exciting to see some things happening, but I really think customizing all of them, really showing them that Lockport's gone the extra mile is key. Want to show you something else that we've done here as well. We'll give it a chance to come up here. Is we put together an interactive mapping application for Lockport. This is a really neat tool. We started out, had a chance to use it a little bit at the ICSE conference there in Chicago. But what this is a standalone application, and it can also be embedded on the city or economic development website. But it's a standalone application where all of the demographics, all of the psychographics, we've actually mapped it with our data partner, Esri. So the psychographic segmentation, for example, I can click on this layers tab here and click on tapestry segmentation, and it actually color codes each individual neighborhood, each individual block group. You can click anywhere on the map. It'll actually tell you what the segment is. You can click where my cursor is there to say where it says see full description. It'll give you a complete summary of what people buy, all of that information. So we're trying to make it as accessible as possible. We're going to get this out to the local businesses, but also making it easy if we're meeting with a retailer or meeting with a developer to pull this information up on our iPad. We can click to actually share it. We can email it, email specific reports. So a really neat tool to have. There's a number of different base maps. We can pull up satellite imagery maps that are up to date as well. You can pull up just a number of different things. Retail spending potential, just like it pulled up the tapestry segmentation, it'll actually show us.
You shift it because it's Lockport's only partially.
Oh yeah. It'll show you the entire community here. It'll show you what their spending potential is. Like this category here, for example, I could click right here on the screen, and it'll actually tell us the average household in this area spends $35,000 per year on retail goods and services, 155% of the U.S. average. So just a real neat tool to have, just a little something extra to get to those retailers and restaurants. We're trying to make it as easy as possible in these retailers and restaurants.
I did notice Darren's home was color-coded the same as the Stateville Correctional Facility. Just saying, man.
It's an untapped.
Yeah.
One other thing that we put together is a retail-specific website. Thought this was needed. So retail360.us/Lockport, Illinois is the website. We send this out to retailers, developers. We walk them through it, showing them what that total leakage is, showing them what the opportunity is, age distribution. There's actually down in the bottom left corner here, download. So all of the demographics, all the psychographics, it's an easy way to download. A lot of times these are large files, hard to send over email. There's a request more information tab that'll go to our team. It'll also go to Pam and Ben as well. So really neat tool to have, really neat website. So wanted just to point that out really quick, that all of the information that we put together is on there. Couple more slides for you. Wanted to just talk about a few recommendations as we go. Sorry. As we go along here, the retail industry is improving. It has, I mean, you see it on the news every day. Retailers that were on hold after the recession are finally doing deals again. We're starting to see that. Retailers that had looked at Lockport maybe 5 years ago, 6 years ago, are starting to look again. But caution prevails. If I'm a retailer, I've got to be 100% sure that if I open a store in Lockport, I'm going to be successful. So that's why we're putting all of these tools together to prove to these retailers they can make it work here. We're seeing a lot more interest. We've actually only been recruiting for about 6 months. And we're already starting to see more interest than we did 6 months ago. Retailers are looking for the sure thing. They're looking for opportunities, not just sites. But when they're looking at sites, they're looking for visibility, accessibility, regional exposure, population density, population growth, safety, security, adequate parking, adequate signage. So what we've done, and Pam had a great database of sites available, and we're adding to that so that when a retailer restaurant shows interest, let's say it's a fast casual restaurant concept, we can get to them. These are the 3 sites that make sense for your business. These are the 3 properties that are available. And what we're trying to do, once again, speed up that process, providing them the information as quick as possible. One of the things I wanted to just talk about briefly here is this is one of my favorite sayings, is community development precedes economic development. And that being said, first impressions are important. I challenge all of you, and I will say Lockport is doing a very good job at this, but I challenge you, as you drive back into the community, or as you drive into the community next time, try looking at it through the eyes of a retailer. What are some things that retailers and restaurants would pay attention to that maybe you as citizens or council members get used to seeing? Is it, hand-painted signs, community development type issues? And like I said, you're doing a good job at it, but look at it through the eyes of a retailer, and that'll help you see what retailers are really looking at. But when I say community development, I'm talking about community appearance, pride of ownership, functional infrastructure, evidence of crime, codes and code enforcement, downtown vitality, your downtown. I used to work for a site selector, a restaurant site selector before the retail coach. The first place my boss would send me was downtown, because to them that was a pulse of the community. How is the community doing? You've got a downtown that's doing well. So a retailer or restaurant will be able to determine in just a few minutes the direction or the trend of a community. Things such as cleanliness of the community, condition of building structure, those sort of things are important. So I wanted to kind of leave that phrase with you: community development precedes economic development. I think that's important to pay attention to. Continue to uniformly and consistently enforce existing codes and ordinances. That's obvious. Got some tips there, but a longer term approach to enhance codes and ordinances that offer a visual appearance that would complement Lockport's vision for the future. So you're competing with all of these communities around you. What are some things that you can do to set Lockport above the rest? Already got some great things happening there, but signage, no hand-painted signs, all signs submitted to the city for approval, landscaping, maybe a certain percentage of a property or front yard or business must be landscaped. Storage, all storage must not be visible from the street or from the major thoroughfare behind a fence. And then building colors, adopt a color chart that excludes obnoxious colors. So we'll talk more about that as we move forward. But people want to locate in communities that offer them everything, and that's what we heard a lot when we were talking to people throughout the community. Is they're looking for everything. They're looking for retail. They're looking for restaurants. They're looking for entertainment. They're looking for nightlife. Those sort of things. So what we're trying to do, and what we'll be coming back with, is some additional recommendations on what are some of those things. All of this tying into quality of life. People want to live in communities that offer everything. So wanted to mention that as well. I'll say that y'all are doing a great job at this, but continue to have a pro-business attitude and development process. Just like I said, we're trying to provide all of the information a retailer or developer needs, really trying to do their work for them. Continue to have that pro-business attitude. Retailers go where it's easiest to do business. You're competing with all of these communities around you. We've got to make sure that when a retailer decides they're going to locate a store, Lockport's at the top of the list. Usually what happens is a retailer will say, we're going to open up 5 stores in the region. So our goal is, in working with you and knowing this is a long-term process, that every time a retailer looks to move into the region, Lockport is in that top 5. So that's our goal there. Don't overlook your existing retailers. Now, that's what we're trying to do here as well. This interactive mapping application, I think, is a great tool to get to your local businesses. I'll be happy to come back for some training and some seminars in much more detail on how to use this information and some of our other tools. But retail retention is vital to long-term economic strength. Increased sales tax revenue, obviously, and then also ambassadors who present a positive image. One of the things I did notice from spending time in the community, our team noticed, is it would be nice if you had a little bit stronger, more active Chamber of Commerce. See that work well in a number of communities, and I think that would bring everybody together a little bit more, and also utilizing this information. So, just some things we noticed there. But one last slide for you. I've kind of gone through everything, just a quick summary of everything. But we go into much detail. Take a long-term approach, and I think you as a community have bought into this, that retail recruitment retention cannot just be a one-time thing, but it's a long-term process. Like I said, we started recruiting about 6 months or so ago, and we have a couple of retailers that we have on the hook, and we've got to continue. Typically takes 12 to 18 months for a retailer to choose a site. If they're build it, get in there. So taking that long-term approach is key. And then, like I said here, must commit to a long-term retail economic development plan tied to the vision of the community and its forecast for population growth and build-out. So this is by no means a final presentation, but just an update on where we're at. We've got, I think, in our current contract, we've got about 4 months left in the process, 3 or 4 months left in the process, and our plan over those next 3 or 4 months is to continue the aggressive recruitment, stay in front of these retailers and restaurants. You've got the ICSC Recon Conference that'll be coming up in May. I think having a presence there is important. But wanted just to kind of give you an update. I've been in the community a number of times and haven't gotten to see all of you every time, but wanted just to provide an update, see if there might be any questions for us initially.
Well, I'll make a comment first, Aaron. I mean, it was important to me to make sure that we were proactive, and this council is important too as well. And so, some things on here that we hear and people watching will be like, tell me something I don't know. Sit-down restaurants, right? But there's a lot of things that we didn't know, and I needed that information. The household median income of 90 plus thousand, that's huge. Anybody, if you just asked, they would probably tell you, I don't know, 50, 60. Sure. That's a huge difference from what most people think of Lockport. The trade area map is monstrous. I know talking to some retailers, they usually put a pin in downtown Lockport and drive a 5-mile radius, and it takes up half of it's on the other side of the bridge, and that bridge is the Great Wall of China. No one goes over there. It's just too hard. So having an accurate trade area map for these retailers, it's a huge, huge thing. So getting these accurate numbers so that when we talk to these folks, it's not just our feelings. I now have third-party information that's confirmation of this stuff. So that's been a really important aspect for this.
Absolutely, and you hit on something. A lot of your retail site selectors are sitting at a computer back of their office, could be back in Texas, could be in Florida, and they'll drop that 5-mile radius down in the community. It doesn't tell that story, right? Because I think we all know if you get caught, coming back on the bridge, it's not a 10-minute drive time. It takes a while. So I think that's the key of doing this. But stay at it, and that's the important thing, is to stay aggressive. And I think that's the key is being aggressive, because you are competing not just with those communities directly around you, but really in the entire region.
Right. And so it's been very helpful to have that information. I know even when we went to the ICSC conference, to be able to be armed with information as opposed to just my feelings is great. So it's made a big difference, and we look forward to taking that information now, putting it to good use. And certainly we can do better on cleaning up some of our corridors and stuff like that. I think, we can talk through that with staff and code enforcement and stuff like that. But it's like, putting your best suit on, that's what we need to do in areas. So those are just some comments. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off for questions or anything.
Like I said, y'all are doing a great job at that. I wanted to say, because there are always areas of improvement, those sort of things. One of the things I didn't mention in here is your gateways into the community, letting people know they're in Lockport. That's key. So that's another thing to look at as well.
Oh man, something else you said too that I appreciate is that the importance of the downtown. I can't tell you how many times I get people, it's just to abandon that downtown. It's like, no, I'm not going to abandon it. It reflects us. It's our face. There are existing businesses down there. But the idea that, we throw that out the window, it affects who we are, and it affects the other corridors, because certainly, the retailers look at everything in a city, not just the highway exit.
Absolutely.
Okay. Anything, council, folks? Okay. Well, Aaron, thank you so much for taking the time to come up, give us a presentation, an update on things, and yep, we'll keep in touch, man.
Absolutely. Well, if y'all get a chance and can actually play
Merv's
around.
got a question. What's up?
Well, it's not really a question, it's more of a comment. I've been working with Lisa Karras at the Chamber, and what we're trying to establish is a small business association so that we can strengthen through the Chamber. So it would work as a segue to get people more involved into the Chamber of Commerce. But what the Small Business Association's goal is to actually teach business owners how to understand those demographic features that you're talking about. A lot of business owners don't necessarily have that background, they just have that dream, and they have a little bit of cash liquid, maybe good credit to achieve a little small place, a piece of the pie. So we've been working, and I actually presented to the Chamber of Commerce, and they seem very interested. So there are other things. I just wanted to let you know that there
Awesome.
are other things that are being worked on behind the scenes with the Chamber of Commerce, and I know that firsthand. So we're just trying to get them, with QuickBooks and teaching them tax things and how to effectively manage a business. So there are a series of seminars that are going to be hosted,
Sure.
and the business owners would pay for those, and then it would be funneled into the Chamber, so the Chamber would have more money.
Awesome.
Yeah, so there's little things.
That's Merv.
I'll challenge you, if you get a chance and can actually play around with that interactive mapping application, it really is interesting to see who the consumers are in the community. I think it will open your eyes, just like Mayor said about the incomes being a lot higher than were expected. Once you really get in there, and I just looked at a kind of a high level of the community, but you start zooming in at each of these different areas, a lot of neat information. So thank you all for having us. We'll be seeing you around soon. So,
All right, thanks,
thank you.
Aaron. All righty. Pam, what do you got?
Yes, thank you. Oh, wait, where's my report? Here we go. Yes, tonight on the agenda, one of the cases that was presented to the Plan Commission at their last meeting was Lockport Square, Lot 7, which is an outlot of the overall development. is looking to come forward and get approval for a final plan for a 10,400 square foot multi-tenant retail building. As I said, it went to the Plan Commission on January 13th. There was no public testimony. The applicant, Andy Goodman with GMX Realty, was present. He provided an overview of the project as well as introduced the members of the development team and then responded to any questions or concerns from the commission. There were no real questions or concerns, but there was a lot of expression of support for the project and a long time waiting. With that, staff had made a recommendation of approval. The Plan Commission also by a vote of 6 made a recommendation, 6-0, made a recommendation of approval, subject to some conditions. Condition number 1 has been taken care of per the applicant. We just received notice of that. I think it was yesterday or the day before. The only other condition then that would stay on this would be that the final engineering plan does need to be approved by our city engineer. With that being said, we are asking direction to place this on the February 4th council for action. And the applicant and members of his team, as well as Mr. Puritan, who is also one of the owners of the property, is present for presentation and questions or responses.
Jay Maynard, were you guys going to speak then?
Yeah.
Okay, please, come on.
How do I get rid of this one, Pam?
How do we get rid of it?
Got it. I think. Okay, this one. Perfect. Nope. Up there, Lockport plan. Next. Next. We get bigger.
Slideshow.
Close this out here.
All right. Winner. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members, staff. The last time we came before you, we said we intended to close our purchase of the failed Lockport Square retail project, which is generally located, as you know, at the southwest corner of I-355 and 159th Street. And we said at that time we plan to carry out its development as the market permitted. We're here today, about 11 months later, to present our first development project, which of course we know will be the first of many. Before we get into our proposed project specifics, let me reorient you to the property and the ownership, as well as highlight what we've done in the past year. As you know, Lockport Square consists of about 21 subdivided lots on almost 77 acres. Target owns Lot 15, as you're well aware, and the Express Medical Building is located on Lot 12. We own the remaining 64 acres, including 6 lots, green areas on the slide, that contain stormwater management and native plant areas. Just briefly, the ownership group is composed of 3 operating partners. I'm Jim Puritan of Puritan Development. Partner Andy Goodman of GMX Real Estate Group will present the proposed development, and our other partner is Janko Group, who's not here this evening. Combined, we've been involved in the development and management of about $3 billion of retail and other commercial properties, way too many years. And you'll see one or more of us from time to time as the next few years as we present more properties and come for development. First, let me quickly talk about what we've done, what's so-called Phase 1 site work. In our agreements with the city, you may remember that we promised to undertake what was called Phase 1 work. These are site activities meant to be undertaken prior to the development of the retail stores. The Phase 1 scope of work includes a wide variety of remedial activities, including preparing as-built of the site improvements, completing the city's punch list regarding sanitary and stormwater systems on site, restarting the native plants and natural areas program required by the site's Army Corps permit, replacing dead trees primarily along Edelman Road, and fixing right-in, right-out entrances on 159th Street, which, as you know, protrude into the right-hand traffic lane. We also promised to pave, light, and landscape the interior road and the 3 access roads to 159th Street. We also promised to construct the city welcome sign along 159th Street as required by the annexation agreement. In 2014, we completed about 75% of this work, including the videotaping and repairs to the sewer and stormwater drainage systems. We completed the as-built plans and provided them to the city and for our own use. We paved the top coat of the interior and the access roads. We planted about 160 trees along Edelman Road and the interior and access roads. We worked with the Army Corps on remedial native plantings and maintenance programs in the detention areas. We undertook a number of miscellaneous repairs, such as the retaining wall and the slide, which is obviously the before picture. We provided site lighting along the interior and access roads. We expect to complete the remaining 25% this year, which includes the city welcome sign, the right-in, right-out entrances, the Army Corps required work on the pond in the rear of the site. 3 items, which is about 25% of the total Phase 1 work. Delays there were caused by, you can guess, IDOT was one, Army Corps was the other, and we need Target's approval for the city welcome sign the modifications. All 3 are still in process. But most important, the most important thing we launched in 2014 was our marketing program. First, we hired 2 of the most prominent Chicago retail brokerage firms to market the property, that being Mid-America Real Estate Group and Metro Commercial Real Estate. Both firms have dedicated very senior people to the cooperative marketing effort, and not coincidentally, both firms represent many tenants in the marketplace, all those that we would love to have at Lockport Square. Our marketing program is multifaceted and includes emailing blasts to prospective tenants and brokers, meetings with tenant rep brokers, property presentations to tenant brokers and retail reps at regional and national conventions, and old-fashioned cold calling for the very few retailers our team's not familiar with. The initial message that we had to get out was that Lockport Square is back in the game with new ownership and a new attitude. We can say we've been successful in getting that message across. We have contacted, received feedback from, and are continuing to track and market over 130 retail prospects. Our marketing strategy is threefold. Part 1 focuses on the anchors. If we can get an anchor, as the name implies, their presence will attract other smaller junior anchor tenants and outlock users. Anchors are the traditional way to pull together a retail development project. If we asked you to come up with a list of potential anchors for the site, you'd probably name most of these 8 traditional anchors on the side. We've had many, many meetings and conversations with these traditional anchors. By the way, we've included Target in our marketing efforts to try to convince them to construct a store on their property, even though they're not on property that we would be involved in. And obviously, Walmart's already in town, so they're not on the list. I want you to know all of these tenants have initially turned us down. Most are inactive in the Chicago suburban market today. There is some hope on the horizon, however. As you heard, retailers are getting more active. This particular group of retailers are beginning to respond to overall market and economic trends, which we hope will translate their inactivity into activity in the next year or two. Let me focus for a moment on Target. Target in the United States, in Chicago, only opened 1 traditional suburban store since the recession, since 2007. They have focused instead on smaller urban stores, particular smaller format city stores, in which case they've opened 6 urban stores since the recession. And they told us very recently that they're opening 5 traditional stores across the entire United States. So if we find a way to get them to start this store, we'll pull off a miracle. That's not very good news, generally speaking, but all's not lost. You probably heard that Target's announcement last week that they're closing their money-losing Canada stores. That's really very good news. Now they can take the loss and they can get on with their business. And their knitting is opening stores in the U.S. So there may be a crack in the door. We haven't heard anything yet, but I would think Wall Street is going to talk to them and they're going to have a program. And hopefully we can get our Lockport location as part of that. Some of the other anchors, as you know, are coming back to life. Most noteworthy is Meijer, who recently opened 2 nearby stores here, Homer Glen and Frankfort. These stores are doing well. Meijer is expanding in Wisconsin. They bought the Super Value Distribution Center in Kenosha. And we hope Meijer can be lured to Lockport in the near future. It is a location that has the right distances and so forth where they would consider Lockport. So we hope Meijer's on our list of maybe. I want you to know we also chased non-traditional anchors, Farm and Fleet, for example, grocery stores of all kinds, and theaters, expanding our anchor list to about 20 prospects. We've gotten some tepid interest from these non-traditional anchors, but nothing concrete so far. We will continue to try our best to land an anchor, as this is really our most certain path toward quick development of the entire site. So if we can get one of these guys, then the rest will happen. I can tell you with absolute certainty, if Target opened, the rest of it is done in a very, very short period of time. Other stores are there, but they want the anchor, which is the segue to junior anchors. Since the traditional anchors are not very active, part two of our marketing strategy was really focused on the junior anchors. The idea is that if you can assemble a critical mass of junior anchors, say 100,000 feet to 150,000 feet, and we're telling them, well, you're really close to Walmart anyway, you've got a lot of traffic, you're in the right spot, that might kickstart a project. This is a strategy now being implemented throughout the U.S. because the big boys really aren't moving right now. And given our initial feedback from junior anchors, we're cautiously optimistic that sometime in the future we might be able to get that critical mass put together to commit to Lockport Square. These are some of the junior anchors that we've contacted and are chasing. We've got 35 on our list. And while some of these are currently inactive, like Best Buy and Staples, some in the category are extremely active. As you've probably noted throughout the Chicagoland community, Ross came in from nothing and now has 26 stores in the last 5 years. TJ Maxx is expanding. Home Goods is expanding. Most of these are expanding very aggressively. And they've filled up. Remember the circuit cities that used to be, the 33 around Chicago? There's like 0 of them left because a lot of these stores have backfilled with the junior anchors. So the junior anchors are very active, and I can say almost without exception that they'll seriously consider Lockport Square if and when we get an anchor. Our strategy to assemble a group of them is taking a little longer, but they're sort of the same candidates. And that, by the way, they do fit some of the categories that the retail coach just talked about. Fashion and sports and so on and forth. The third leg of our strategy is really focused on the outlots. We knew before we purchased the property that there's a very strong demand from outlot users today. So we wanted to tap into that interest to develop and sell outlots even before we're ready to do the rear lots with the anchors and junior anchors. It's unconventional, it's backwards, but we want to take advantage of the outlot demand. So we're chasing at this point over 60 prospects. That include the standalone tenants and those that will take space in multi-tenant buildings. Categories include soft and hard goods, food, and services. Once again, there are many would like to be at Lockport Square. You look at the list and say, these would kill, these would be great, they'd be full the whole time. It's been proven in other places. If you go to Highway 50 in Kenosha, Texas Roadhouse you can't get into, Buffalo Wild Wings you can't get into. That's kind of what happens in more of the outlying areas. But they're all waiting for the first one to happen or the anchor to come. They say they don't want to be the pioneer. There are others, however, that like the location to market and who will commit today, even without an anchor tenant. So our first development project that you'll see tonight is a multi-tenant building, small start, but it's composed of several of those outlot users that really want to be here, and we found a way to get them here. We expect the first development will generate further interest, and the other guys will say, hey, it's been proven, we'll start to get some momentum going in the next 24 months. So I'm going to turn it over to Andy Goodman to finish up our presentation on the specific project, but I'll stop at this point if you want me to answer any questions you might have. Okay, Andy.
Thank you, Jim. Mayor, Alderman, pleasure to be here tonight. For the record, Andy Goodman. I'm a principal partner with GMX Real Estate Group based out of Northbrook, Illinois. To orientate you to the subject lot, Lot 7 sits along the frontage on 159th between the future main traffic signalized entrance on 159th Street in the right in, right out between Lot 6 and Lot 7. Our Lot 7 development program is a testament to the fact that there are outlot users that want to be here today, which when we came in, I think the first time we had discussed, as Jim pointed out, a program that enabled us to move forward with what's available today, build on that, and this development that we hope to kick off and break ground this April, May, will be the first of many that will hopefully create a snowball and positive impact that creates future developments for the Lockport Square development. Here's a focus of the lot itself. It's a combination of retail and restaurant users. Currently, 3 of these spaces were at lease negotiation with national retailers. In the development, this plan has been well thought out with the input of Pam and Christiana and the rest of your staff, which have been great to work with. Thank you very much. We're very pleased to work with your staff. They're tremendous and top-notch. A traditional parking field layout with, this is the ring road between the outlots and the main future inline center. So you could come in, there's two-way access around the center that has 2 access points in and out to the ring road. A traditional layout with parking that meets both city code as well as the operating agreement that governs the property surrounding the development site. There's a drive-through lane laid out here for a potential NCAP user with a breakthrough lane here, so that if you're anything like my household, when my wife's in the drive-through lane and there's 4 kids usually screaming in the car, and at some point, if the line is too long, she breaks out. She breaks out, and generally this lane here, and ends up in the main parking lot for about a half an hour timeout. So that's an important feature, and we've designed that in here with of course, the input of staff and plenty of landscaping. So this is the proposed handsome architecture that we would bring for the outlot building. It's a combination of a lot of face brick, and some thin stone, handsome wall sconces here on these tower elements, a sign band area that's draped in a handsome ephes material that will give adequate signage. One of the things Aaron talked about was having prominent signage. Of course, this signage will be face mounted onto the proposed ephes. There aren't any hand painted signs, so you don't have to worry about that issue that Aaron brought up. Very tasteful looking building, very traditional materials, and it meets the design guidelines of not only the staff but the original development agreement and design requirements that were laid out when the annexation agreement was put into place many years ago. This would be a proposed outlot sign that would sit along 159th Street. It's a very important feature. It will be a focal point of traffic coming by along 159th Street, as allowed under the operating document within the shopping center. Each outlot is afforded its own individual monument sign to highlight the future businesses that will be locating at Lockport Square. And so this is a handsome monument sign comprised of face brick, a nice field stone, an internally lit sign panel face area, and that sign and that theme will flow along 159th Street so that each outlot conforms with the theme. So we think this is a very beautifully planned and architecturally compatible building that sets a nice theme for the overall development. And as Jim pointed out, I think earlier in the presentation, typically you start with the anchor boxes in the back, and you work your way through your anchor deals, then your junior anchor deals, and then your outlots up front. Given where the market is today and that the outlot development is really the hot segment here in town, we're going at it from the reverse angle, which means we really need to set the tone beautifully with what we're doing up front, which will flow through to the rear. We also, Jim and I also have our consultants here in the audience tonight. Should there be any questions, Scott DiGiulio is sitting, the handsome man there in the back. His firm has been around for plus 10 years. He's a principal in the firm, but in a prior company, he's been around for roughly 25 years or so. Was involved with when Target decided that they wanted to come to town in the early 1990s. Forrest Russell, who ran the whole development program back then, interviewed all the engineers in town and chose Scott. And he was the gentleman that opened up all the suburban as well as many of the urban locations for Target in town. So he's well-versed in big box development. We're very pleased to have him on our team. He's here tonight as well to answer questions, as well as our architect, JTS Architects. That's Mike Colombo, one of the founding principals, and one of his younger architects, Scott Schust, who's a bright star in his own right in the upcoming. They've been around 30-plus years. And, of course, guys like Jim and I have worked with JTS dating back into the early 1990s. So we have a long history together, a lot of chemistry. We work well together. And most importantly, we understand how to put these centers together the right way, in the right format, with the right tools and the right people. So if there are any questions regarding the outlot, our team is here to answer them. We're very excited to be here. Our plan would be to break ground again this spring and have these tenants open in the fall. In the way that it looks now, we have roughly 65-70% of the planned space in this outlot building out for lease currently. So while no deals are yet done, they're never complete until they're fully inked and the ink is dry. We feel very good that we'll be able to deliver this project under this time frame this year. And it, again, is a great project to kick off and sets the tone for the overall development. And we feel it'll have a nice snowball and or ripple effect to what we're able to bring and stand before you here in the months and years to come. And very pleased to do so. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Andy. Any questions, folks? Thoughts, concerns?
Okay, I do. Looking over the plan, and it called for stamped and painted like brick asphalt, and I had never, for the sidewalk and the crossing path, it said, I had never heard of this before, and I did look it up online, but my question is about it because it looks really nice, and I was just wondering how long does something like that hold up? Just the thought of something being painted, seems...
I'd have to rely on our professionals to answer that. The one of you gentlemen want to step forward?
Well, the painted asphalt is a product that...
Yeah, I'm sorry, sir. Can you come to the microphone just so folks that who might be watching can hear and see? Thank you.
The painted asphalt is a product that holds up like asphalt. It's not as good as concrete, but it's an asphalt product that that you would have to maintain the paint on. It could wear over time, but that's one of the standards that that's on this piece of property.
Right. I was just wondering how long it would... It didn't say even on the online sites and people that do it. They just say, it wears beautifully, but...
Right. I don't have any data that would show how long that would last.
Okay, thank you.
The Walmart in Romeoville has that, and it's showing signs of wear, so usually about 5 years before serious maintenance is needed. We have that in Lockport, too, where we have that, but it is, it's a lot cheaper than doing a brick or concrete.
Absolutely, and you can use the savings to maintain it as well.
All right. Is that, now that it's out there, I'm kind of curious. Is that the smartest way to spend the money then? I don't want to get hung up on sidewalks, but now that we're asking the question, is that just kind of the right way to go, fellas? You guys feel good about that, staff?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes. But it also, it not only provides a more attractive crosswalk situation, but it also, because that is a location where people will be crossing, by having a different pavement or something that's more identifiable, it helps also as like a traffic control device, so that people crossing, someone coming around that corner knows that that's an area that's different and to be more cautious.
And that would be less expensive than doing concrete sidewalk?
Well, concrete's always more expensive. I'm just not necessarily sure how often it's used as a crosswalk area in a parking lot like that.
But it said sidewalks too.
It's not the sidewalks. If you can look at the picture there, it's just the
It's just the crosswalk area.
crosswalk area that's kind of that purplish color.
Oh,
It's,
okay.
it's in the drive areas of the parking lot.
Right, because it connects to the sidewalk that encourages
Sidewalks
pedestrian.
themselves are concrete.
So we're just talking about 4 sections
Okay.
that are like 10 feet by 2 feet, right?
Yes.
Exactly.
Okay.
Guys, I have a question for you. Obviously, I'm enthused about going vertical with something. It's very important, I think, to start the momentum, and it's part of it. How do you guys feel about any of the risks with building in Lot 7 that, because it's a bit isolated from, everything else, it's not really contiguous to what's existing out there, that if it doesn't do well because it's isolated, that it might set a bad tone for the rest of the site, the rest of the lots? You guys, how do you feel about that risk on this?
Well, the fact of the matter is that the retailers that we're speaking to now are willing to move forward without the anchors in place. There's no anchor co-tenancy requirement, which tells us that they feel very strongly that they'll have the sales there to support their stores.
Okay.
So
I mean,
in
they
that
know their
respect-
business, so, okay. That's the only concern I've had with looking at this, but,
There is a strip mall over in, where it's at Crest Hill on Weber and 100 and anyway, they could only attract one business, which was a hot dog stand. That lasted about 6 months, and good thing the Catholic Church came in and bought the whole place, so
yeah, I mean, I think we're in a way different spot.
Right, nothing to do with the location.
Yeah, I think we're and we're obviously being aggressive and everything else. I think they do fine. And look, I mean, you and I have had conversations about, the people that are lined up and what we need to do, so.
And the fact, currently as it stands, is we're about 60 to 70% out for lease
Okay.
right now. So
And
it's
you-
not that just, and that comprises 3 different businesses, so that's not just one local hot dog stand.
yeah. No, I understand. I was just using an example. Sometimes these things don't work. I mean, there's another one in Romeoville that's on, right near one of their schools, and they've never been able to lease anything there, but those are different situations. I didn't mean to take away from these. I mean, sometimes that does happen, but it's, for a while they were building strip malls like Johnny Appleseed was planting apple trees.
While we haven't, nailed anybody down, and a lot of the outlot guys that, we'd like to see that really ought to be here, when they point to this site saying, well, we'd really like to be there, you can imagine who wants Lot 8 or Lot 9. Those are going to be the kind of guys we'd really, 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 really want to be here. And actually, talking to the brokers, they suggested Lot 7 versus Lot 5, just because Lot 5's higher up and doesn't have visibility, and it's going to be a great site because it's close to where everything else is, but they thought Lot 7 for now gives them better visibility in opening. So there was a process to
Well,
get
that makes
there.
sense then. I could see that, because at first my thought was, shouldn't you be contiguous, but I could see they felt the visibility,
Yeah,
plus
well,
probably the long term.
Lot 5 is up from the site next door.
Got it.
Yeah.
And
That
you'll
was my only question.
You would still be able to use Edelman, right, where there is there's
sure,
a light
yes.
there,
Yeah,
so, yeah.
Yeah,
In and out.
I can't point to it, but the roads that we paved is the road going across the site and the access ways. And then we put the landscaping on there, and the lights that I saw tonight weren't working, but we'll get them working again.
All right, very good. Well, look, I
got a
think
comment.
yeah, go ahead.
Jim and Andy, I just want to tell you thanks for your presentation. It's very nice. You said you came back, you were here 11 months ago, and I remember that. It's like, wow, that was like yesterday. Seems like, knowing that, the anticipation of that first presentation was like, wow, it's going to be coming, So, and here we are, and it's really exciting. I think just to get your, the foot started on what you're doing. I mean, it's really much appreciated. I know it behooves you to get it going, and also us too. So as elected officials and our city staff, and also our residents too, has been looking forward to something going there. And I think this is definitely a very good direction that, we're going now, and we finally have reached that. So, and I do appreciate the fact that you have talked about our staff and how well they're easy to work with, and we're very proud of that too. We're proud of our staff that they're able to do that with you. So again, thanks for everything you've been doing here and all your work, and Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Anyone else?
Give him hell.
Thanks, guys. We appreciate it. All right, very good. All right, Pam, what else you got?
So do we have direction to place this on the February 4th agenda
Yes.
Yes.
or as an action item or consent?
I'm okay with consent. Does anybody have a problem with that?
Consent.
Consent it is. All right.
Thank you,
Very good.
Okay. The next item is the vacant property that's immediately east of the current Panduit Corporation. It's a 38-acre site. The proposal this evening is a concept plan for 3 buildings totaling approximately 659,000 square feet of an area. The Plan Commission considered this at their January 13th meeting as well. It was a concept plan, so there was no public hearing. There was some general comments that staff had presented and some design considerations. One of the items that was expressed by the commission was about one of the buildings is a cross-dock building, so meaning there's docks on both sides. And that typically is attributed with some high levels of truck traffic. And so the Plan Commission did express concern with this design and suggested that the applicant consider a single-loaded dock building. The other 2 buildings that are proposed are what we typically find in our business parks. In addition to that, the conditions that have been outlined include issues related to it having a traffic study submitted with the preliminary plans, which would account for any impacts or improvements that may be warranted along 159th Street and Gauger Road. Another comment by the commission was a concern about submitting a study that would indicate whether or not the 163rd Street Bridge would be able to accommodate the truck traffic not only generated by this development, but if you recall, also by the Panatone development, which is kitty corner on the south side of 163rd Street, east of the tollway. There was a study that was, or not a study, but a letter that came from an engineering firm, Spaceco, that was directed to Amy Reese at the time. I think it was 2008 or 2009. And they indicated that that bridge was constructed to accommodate the same type of truck traffic that the I-355 does. So there will not be any issue with respect to the truck traffic using that roadway. The applicant, Mr. Paul Ahern, he submitted that to us today. Also, there was some discussion about the off-site improvements and the cost sharing that would occur between this development as well as with the Panatone development, because those benefits, those property improvements do benefit both properties. The applicants have been notified in an email following the meeting that they need to get together and have some discussions, and staff offered to facilitate that if necessary. The number and location of access points into the property will be determined by our engineering department and our tollway authority. For example, there is one access point that's being shown that is perhaps located in the tollway right-of-way. It's not really necessary access, so when the preliminary plans do come in, we'll be taking a closer look at that. And then the last thing, even though it's not listed as a recommendation in the report you've been given, I would like to make sure that it is added in there that the design of that cross-dock building go back to a single-load building. And partially, too, because when we first met with the applicant at a pre-application level, it was a single-dock building that was being shown. So we would want to and hope that the council would support that change so when preliminary plans come in, that occurs. The applicant is present this evening for a presentation, and then staff would be seeking direction after the presentation to put this on the February 4th council meeting for action as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor and the Alderman, for hearing our presentation tonight. My name is Paul Ahern. I am the owner of Tandem Development Group. We're here to present our project at the Panduit site on 163rd Street, just west of the expressway. Tell you a little something about Tandem Development, or about our team. As I said, my name's Paul Ahern. I'm the owner of Tandem Development Group. The property owner is Lockport Land Corporation, which is Panduit Corporation. Our architect will be Carl Heitman of Heitman Architects. Our project manager is Michael Anderson of Anderson Associates. Our civil engineer is Dan Stevens of Spaceco. and our traffic consultant we haven't picked yet, and our real estate broker who's here with me tonight, Brendan Kelly of Avison and Young. A little something about Tandem Development. We're a full-service development firm. We focus on superior properties and superior locations. We were founded in 2006. I founded the company in 2006 after 11 years as a senior executive and the chief operating officer of CenterPoint Properties here in town. We build industrial, airport-related, office, healthcare, and mixed-use developments. We fund our equity with institutional capital, our own capital internally, and then we also work with wealthy families, pension funds, and we've raised money through limited partnerships. Some of the projects that we've done, this project here we did up in Rockford, Illinois, in a public-private partnership with the Rockford Airport, where we built a 72,000 square foot building on the runway there. This building allows for planes to pull up, as you can see, and unload and then load onto trucks. We ended up leasing this to a Fortune 19 pharmaceutical company that does a lot of pharmaceutical packaging up in that area and receives a lot of air freight. Some of our other industrial development experience is at the O'Hare Airport. I led the charge on developing about 3 million square feet of industrial buildings, again, more air freight. Obviously, the Joliet Arsenal or the CenterPoint Intermodal Center in Elwood, Illinois. We were down there the days when it was we cleaned it up from a power plant. Then we've also built some headquarters buildings like Party City's headquarters on the expressway in Naperville near Route 59. Some of the buildings that we own and operate is we have some very nice institutional buildings in Green Oaks and Bolingbrook that we own with wealthy families. And then we also have some smaller industrial buildings. These buildings are in Elmhurst. We have a building down in Lamont. We own and redevelop office buildings. We've had 4 different office buildings in our 10-year our existence. We had a building on the highway over by Woodfield Mall, 300 North Martingale. This Waterfall Glen project in Lamont, you might know that that's right at Lamont Road and I-55. It's where the water comes all the way up to the building. It's kind of interesting there on the ramp. We're going to be building a medical building down in Plainfield on the Edward Hospital campus over there. And then our most recent project here on the right bottom, the Wally Park Auto Airport parking, or airport parking. We're converting office buildings, old kind of antiquated office buildings on the airport into parking garages. We're actually going to put car elevators on. It'll be an interesting project to watch. Those and the team, Heitman Architects, Michael Anderson, have all been involved in these projects. Why Lockport Business Center? I'm going to turn this over to Brendan to talk about why we're here in Lockport and why we're excited about this project.
Great. Thanks, Paul. I'm sure I'll figure out how to advance it. Good evening. Thanks for your time. Oh, okay. There. Perfect. My name is Brendan Kelly with Avis & Young. I'm a principal with them, and we work in the corporate real estate environment. So we're excited to be here tonight. I'm really excited, too, with seeing that food out there. I didn't eat dinner beforehand. So it'll keep my remarks focused so you all can, as well as myself, maybe partake. But big picture is why our businesses, how do we believe we'll be able to successfully attract business to Lockport, and why? So essentially the best way to look at it is, where will they come from? And essentially it's all about the transportation and the arteries. So the number one amenity for corporate America today is a 4-way interchange and then an interstate. And for pretty obvious reasons, for their customers to be able to get to them, and of course to be able to retain and attract employees. Everybody's interested in quality of life, reducing commute times where they can. So the good news with the extension that we're all aware of, I-355, it's really opened up Lockport to a much broader audience of business to be able to bring customers and attract and retain employees. Because I can get from Schaumburg down to Lockport, depending on the time of day, of course, by Motorola in maybe 40 minutes, something like that. Prior to the extension, you all know about what that was all about. So therefore, what that means are the geography that we can draw into Lockport is opened up substantially. Now that the economy is where it is, as you know, the South Extension opened on, I think it was Veterans Day 2007. And so this was Lockport's opportunity to really benefit from obviously a huge, maybe $750 million infrastructure investment. Unfortunately, the economy did what it did, so we haven't really gotten the bounce necessarily in Lockport from that. But now is actually the time to do that. So where the users will come from, what history has shown us, is essentially I-355 north, all the way up to Itasca, say O'Hare area, 294, up and down 294 from where we are right now. So that's from the north. From the east, essentially, users will come along sort of that I-55 corridor. So if you think Burr Ridge, Hinsdale, around 294, and down to, down here to I-355, so from the east. The other areas that we'll market and focus to would be 294 south. So if I go south from I-55, say down through Elsip, there's a lot of business owners, influencers within companies that are running operations who maybe work in that Cook County area, who might live in Lockport, live in Homer Glen, in those areas. And if I want to escape Cook County taxes, which is a fairly common theme for business for at least a generation, my only alternative on that South 294 extension is to, say, Tinley Park or in those areas. There's a limited supply of land out there. So those are all very rich areas to draw from to bring businesses here that we'll take advantage of. Who are those people? If you look at that universe of business, we're basically talking Main Street, middle market, as well as, Fortune 500. So all those are available to us. There's really no doors that we can't reasonably, practically knock on to bring those businesses to Lockport. If you look at the population of business, and we're talking businesses that would occupy industrial buildings, along that I-55 corridor, as a for instance, about 20% manufacturing, probably 80% more in the distribution area. So as you think about that distribution, well, what is that? Pretty much you just have to look around your house. Pretty much every room in your house, whether it's furniture or in your kitchen or in the garage, those type of goods that you buy and purchase have to be distributed. And there's a lot of rooftops, obviously, here in Chicago. And so those are the type of companies that'll be there. What is also open to us, again, because of the artery and the ability of transportation employees to get there, is you have all levels of housing here in this part of Will County to be able to track, executive level to, the starter homes. So you have a broad, diverse of population to draw employees, which, although that hasn't been as big a concern with the economy, now that the unemployment is getting tighter, we actually are starting to hear issues of finding employees. So that'll be a strong point for the area as well. So that's a little bit on, some of the users and who will go to it. The only thing I would also indicate could be a headquarters, so there might be a significant amount of office along with the industrial. It could be regional headquarters. It could be a satellite facility where there may be some major manufacturer, like say Caterpillar, that has distribution outside their manufacturing. So that the one other area that's we're seeing a fair amount of demand right now is on the e-commerce side. As we all know from what we're all doing at home with our shopping, that increasingly we're ordering online, and so that stuff has to be somewhere. And so less bricks and mortar retail, of course, and so that there has to be distribution facilities to help support how we're all changing how we buy things. So that's a little bit of the flavor of that. Let's see, what else? Is there anything else there, Paul? Yeah, I guess we should just mention the geography. O'Hare, Midway, obviously, for business, airports are important. We're close to both of those, a little closer to Midway. We have the Hodgkins UPS intermodal there, where parcels come in, which can come into play. There's a lot of product, as you know, comes in from the West Coast into the intermodal yard down in Joliet. And so a lot of those containers then come to these distribution centers. So you're at a very good location relative to those infrastructures. The other, we just heard the presentation from the retail from Lockport Square. The other competitive advantage that we have here in Lockport is there are area restaurants nearby where these proposed business parks are. And, that's obviously a concern for all employers and employees, is to have opportunities if you're going to leave the office for places to go. So as for instance, we've been with clients that have been looking, say I'm a Burr Ridge business, I'm thinking of relocating, and we'll take them down to I-80, communities down there, fine communities that they are, but there's not the same amenities that we have here. The other advantage that we really can market hard is the low congestion. I-355 South is probably the best artery, from I-55 to 80. It's the least congested artery in all of Chicago. I think that's fair to say. The interchange, 159th, is a modern interchange, $40 million to $50 million, but that flows well. So those are real strong points, because in contrast, I guess the one area I didn't mention is we will be able to attract business on I-55 as you go south down to Weber Road. And has anybody bet on Weber Road, that interchange at rush hour? Yeah, it's, but anyway, it's fine communities that they have over there, but it's very congested. So when we have businesses that are considering relocating from, the Burr Ridge, Hinsdale, or up and down 294, one of the challenges that those areas have is the heavy congestion. So for us, that'll be a strong point. The last thing that would be worth mentioning is just lack of land supply. So the markets that we'll be trying to recruit businesses from, there's no more room at the end in terms of if I need a modern new construction facility. So for instance, if you look at DuPage County, which goes into I-355, DuPage, in 1990, DuPage County, according to the Economic Development Commission of DuPage County, had about 23% of their land area was either agriculture or otherwise undeveloped. And their last study they did, I think, was about 2009, and it was down to maybe 4%. So believe it or not, DuPage County, which was a big growth engine, through the Reagan boom and with Clinton in the 90s and into the 2000s, is actually out of land. So it's a mature county, kind of like Cook County. And then I-55, and we'll wrap this up, you've been very gracious with your time, but I-55, when the extension was extended in 1990 to I-55, that opened that whole area. But if you go to all those interchanges now, there's really very little land left there. So therefore, they have no choice but to come see us here in Lockport. The other nice thing is with the land here, once with Paul's good efforts, speed to market is crucial. So if you have a land site that's entitled, that's ready to go, where you could do a quick start, and you have, this is where you all come in, and you have a community that is like this for business as opposed to like this, really important. And so with all those things and with the great help of the staff that I know we've enjoyed in the past that Paul has mentioned, that can be, the real competitive advantage, to know that they're welcome and that they're wanted. So those are all the characteristics. I guess to advance the slide here, I've gone off talking points here, Paul.
I think you got them all.
Yeah, okay, great. Well, thanks so much for your time.
He studied hard. So, and this is, talking about what are the buildings going to look like. Heitman Architects prepared some of the sample buildings that he's designed and that our company has developed with Carl. But, we're going to have an environment that looks something like this, where we're going to have the ponds out front, the industrial buildings in the back. There'll be precast construction. There'll be painted precast with the offices on the corner with glazing. Be, as nice as an industrial building can look, but very attractive, very well designed. And again, we'll have the ponds out front, as you'll see in a moment. This is a building that they built for 3M, and this will be very typical of what we'll have. And the team, our architectural team, this is the building I developed, but will be something along these lines. This gives you an idea. This is an older picture, but gives you an idea of our truck route, or the route of the traffic. With the Lockport Business Center there in the Star, we'll be heading east on 163rd Street, over to Gauger Road, and then to the I-50 or to the 159th Street 355 intersection. So really, we'll be keeping the trucks away from town, and they'll take this route over here. Here's the design of our plan that we have. We have building number 1, which is 378,000 square feet. It will be tucked basically to the east, right up next to Panduit. And then we'll have 2 smaller buildings, 140,000 square feet, that will have somewhat exposure on the expressway, but we expect more of a corporate-like tenants in those those buildings. We have the ponds out front. We did, and we've talked to the staff about this, there is a 1-acre farm out front, which I spent, 60 days trying to work with that family to buy that farm, or little farmette there, to incorporate into our project, but we could never come to terms at anything that would work for either of us. Here's more of a expanded picture of it, of the buildings. We have parking. We'll be able to loop around them. Here's what the detention ponds will look like. We have 3 different entrances. One, the main center entrance, we'll be installing from the project came through about in this same team about 6 years ago. We'll have a right turn deceleration lane there. As Pam mentioned earlier, the site to the very far east is in the IDOT right-of-way. I don't see that going in anytime soon. That's a long process, but it would be great for the phase 2 of the project. We'll do phase 1 will be the property to the west, and then phase 2 will be to the property to the east. Hopefully, at that point, we can work something out with IDOT. This would be phase 1 here, the larger building. It's 378,000. That would be the phase 2 buildings. It will look like this. This is the renderings and the colors that we're going to go with. This monument sign. And then I don't know how to work. This is a video. But as you can see, the berming in front of the buildings there along 163rd Street will screen them really from the cars going by. Carl has a way to make this work, but I don't know how to. This is actually a video. So do you have anything else or any questions?
You may have touched on it briefly. Build out, are you going to do all 3 one at a time? I'm sorry.
One at a time.
Okay.
So we would start the project to the west next to Panduit first.
Okay, so that'd be phase 1, correct?
Phase 1, correct.
So you would build that first and then try to get your tenants?
Yes, that's the plan at this point. As Brendan mentioned earlier, the industrial market here in Chicago has really picked up to a really good pace. There's a lot of demand. There's a lot of pent-up demand. We went a time there from really 2008 to 2009 where it came to a halt, and there wasn't any construction in 2010, very little in 11 and 12, and then 13 we started to see new construction. So there's a lot of companies that during that time really grew, and a lot of big name companies. We just had in the marketplace a large Nabisco deal that Brendan did out in Aurora, and you're seeing a lot of big name companies out in the market looking for space. A lot of manufacturing also. I mean, if you look at the tenants that went into ML there, in the smaller buildings, those are high-tech manufacturing companies that have gone in there. So there's great demand right now.
What type of vehicles are we talking? Semis?
Yeah, they'd be semi-trucks and then
Semis, okay.
people's cars. There'll obviously be a lot of car traffic there too.
I know it says there you got to follow up with as far as the weight limit for the bridge there, the overpass. I think right now, if I'm correct, the sign is 8 tons, but I'm not 100% sure what that tonnage is right now labeled, and I don't know what it's capable of.
That might be for the road itself, especially Gallagher Road.
I'm not real sure. I thought I seen 8 tons the other day, so again, I'm not 100% sure but I know there was some tonnage there, but okay.
I read the report. I saw it for the first time today. The bridge over this 163rd Street bridge over 355 is built for the same traffic that goes down the expressways.
Okay.
The interstate, truck traffic.
Can you comment a little bit on how we're going to deal with the roads from your exit up and around Gauger? Are there any sort of road improvements that we can talk about?
From 6 years ago when we were with this project, we anticipate that we're going to have to upgrade 163rd Street. And then I think because of the Panantoni development that is at 163rd Street and Gauger Road, we've talked to staff and they've mentioned that they'd like a traffic light there, which we've figured into our project. And then Gauger Road is also a large improvement between 163rd Street and 159th Street. And I think we'll be part of the recapture of that expense with the Panattoni development.
And
We
is the
fully anticipate
improvements
that.
Widening, load rating, what are the improvements to this?
I think it's a little bit of widening, and I think it's also more repaving new heavy-duty asphalt, making it truck-worthy to take on a Class 1 truck route. It's a significant amount of money. I'm not quite sure the exact dollars. We've been trying to get together with the Panattonis over the last couple of weeks to really see what that's going to look like. But we fully anticipate in our development that we'll be participating in that cost.
Ben, or Pam, when Panattoni brings their final plans here soon, and preliminary plans will be coming from Mr. Ahern soon. It really would be nice if we could have this Gauger Road thing nailed down. Understandably, is going to be a recapture. Panattoni's going to be paying their first come. They're going to have to be doing it. But it'd really be nice if we could go ahead and get this thing nailed down and to say, this is what we're going to do. They're going to be putting in X million dollars, and Tandem is X million dollars. And if we can have the updated report from whomever on the load limit for the bridge, which is what, is it 40,000 pounds then? 40.
Yeah, the 163rd, hi, Brendan Kelly. 163rd was built the same specifications, the 163rd bridge, as 159th. So Spaceco Engineering did all that study, so it's bulletproof. As you can imagine, IDOT, when they build all those bridges, and it was rebuilt, as you know, with the expressway, they build it to support the traffic that 355 is going to have. So that's already in there. It's documented. So that particular issue you can feel very confident in as far as the bridge.
And I agree with Darren. I think like making sure we have that nailed down. I mean, one of the things that we're struggling with Gauger Road up north is, I mean, literally we're dealing with a piece of property that's 200 square feet, and it's holding up the entire Gauger Road project because of some condemnation issues. And I don't want to find that we begin this and then to find that there's the same kind of little wrench that's keeping the whole Gauger Road screwed up. So I'd like to make sure that we work through any of those kind of issues beforehand. Feel confident that these things, we're not going to have the same kind of snags that we've seen up north.
Right, and that's definitely something we've been encouraging the two applicants to get together. And like I said, we're willing to facilitate whatever it takes. The other thing, too, that we really kind of need to think about, and it kind of goes in line with what you're saying, Mayor, is that not only do we have to look at the immediate impacts at 163rd Street, but also what kind of impact it may or may not have when we get to 159th Street, and making sure that the increase in truck traffic and activity doesn't create, a need for additional turn lanes or a larger turn lane or whatever the case may be. So I think we're all well aware that we don't want this project, neither of the projects delayed, but at the same time we want to make sure that any offsite improvements are going to be able to accommodate this, in the best way possible with the least impact on not only the trucks using it, but also the residents who will be using it to access those roadways as well.
Right, and that's a good point. I mean, we're just assuming all these trucks are going to the highway. Well, if, for all we know, they're going to go through downtown and over the 9th Street Bridge. I mean, so it's kind of just assume that they're going to the highway, but, these are things that we think we need to consider. So
Absolutely. And the other thing, just for the record, for those who might be watching, this property is zoned M1 limited manufacturing, and this zoning has been in place since 1990. So the proposal this evening is consistent with the zoning. In addition to that, it is also consistent with the recommendations of our I-355 master plan, which, as we know, a year ago we had updated. So just for the record, I just wanted it, like I said, for those watching or in the audience, just to let them know that this proposal is in compliance with both the zoning and land use.
Yeah, and I'd like to take a moment to speak to that too, because I know sometimes there's confusion about how zoning works. I know even before I came here on this council, even I would have had the same question that sometimes residents say to me. It's like, why are you putting industrial there? And I said, well, it's zoned this way. It's like, well, change it. It's not that easy to change. I mean, property owners buy property with a certain zoning, and they have a right to develop it that way, and to change it on them that's stuff you go to court for. And so there's things that we have to be sensitive to. And when you look at this whole corridor, I mean, yeah, like in 25 years ago, the whole thing was basically designated as industrial. So while this piece of property has been accounted for that way, I have asked staff to kind of, just today we were talking about this. It's like, look, let's get a real firm grasp on all the areas that we have in the city that are not annexed in, but are in our FPA. They're in our sphere of influence. And it's like, what can we do to be proactive, to look at what can we do to talk to property owners as, and get them to be convinced that, perhaps more retail areas designations will be what's appropriate. But I want to make sure we get out ahead of that, as opposed to just living off of what was decided 25 years ago when this was all designated as industrial. And that's not to say I don't welcome you guys. I'm glad, as long as we deal with some of this traffic stuff like that. And God bless you. This is the way it's been zoned. But I want to make sure that as a council and staff, we're proactive about looking at the rest of our areas that are not color coded yet on the map.
One other thing about that is that Lockport started planning for this area a long time ago. It started back in the 80s, and when I-355 was just a dream, and even before it was completed in DuPage County. So that's why this is, and to abruptly change it now to just housing rooftops would be, economically wouldn't be good. Did you say that you had a part in the UPS development in Willow Springs?
No. I did not. No, I had a part of the BNSF project down in Elwood.
Okay, because I was going to say that was a great turnaround from a closed Fisher body plant into a very good jobs magnet and development magnet in Willow Springs.
I think that I read once that a package only spends about 4 minutes in the building.
Really? Yeah.
It comes in one end, it goes out, it's about 4.5 minutes.
Well,
it's highly automated.
That required the 79th Street exit and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And one other positive too I'll say about this is that one of the things is we've talked to the restaurants and retailers and stuff like that, especially with the restaurants. They've asked, how many rooftops are going in these years, and they also want to know what the lunchtime crowd is. And with Panettone, this, and ML Realty, I mean, the lunchtime crowd is getting pretty secure. So being able to attract some of those other restaurants that we want, this is just as important as anything else, this kind of stuff. So.
Good. I'm sorry, go ahead.
One addendum to what I said earlier about Lockport planning is from the 80s. The planning wasn't just putting it down on paper. The planning was oversized water lines, oversized sewer lines, et cetera, for the upcoming I-355. So the planning isn't just paper. It's a underground. It's a substructures. And that's where the planning comes from, and that's the total scope of the planning. So.
The good news, Mr. Mayor, you mentioned about Gauger Road is, to attract business users here, you can't do that with the way Gauger Road is today. So the alignment with the developments to make sure that all happens, the projects can't happen without that being done.
I have a couple of questions. I'm actually, I'm not going to be able to be at the next meeting, so I just want to kind of air all of my comments and thoughts. So I'm one of the few in Lockport that's actually east of 355. So I drive Gauger multiple times a day. I drive 163rd multiple times a day. In the summer when I want to come downtown, I bike down 163rd to get down here. So this is right in my wheelhouse. And I've gotten some feedback from some of the residents in the local area that, those of us east of 355 already feel a little disjointed from Lockport. I think the mayor's quoted as saying it feels like Australia compared to downtown Lockport a few times. And so there's a little bit of concern that this is going to, break it up a little bit more. That being said, it's been mentioned a couple times now that Lockport's taking a little bit of a different tone, and we want to be open arms to developers. This has been developed as M1, zoned as M1 since 1990. So I'm no interest in trying to block this development. I think it's appropriate. I want to welcome it, make sure it fits as well as it can within the community. couple of things on that. One, I've kind of heard and I read, obviously, beforehand too, about the suggestion of building one being single-sided dock instead of the dual-sided dock. But I haven't heard if we've settled on that. Are you amenable to that? What is the plan for building one still to be dual dock, or are you willing to go to the single-sided dock for the building?
Well, the plan that we have now is a double-sided dock building, a cross-dock building.
Okay.
But, you know, we're going to work with staff to see what's appropriate in the long term.
Okay.
The bigger buildings really need to be cross-docked. When you go to or anything over 300,000 feet, market-wise, that's the way to go.
But the benefit, the key feature to that is flexibility. So by having docks on both sides, that means you could get 4 businesses in the building, because you could develop it into quadrants. So that flexibility to appeal to smaller business, Main Street, as well as to the extent that someone needed more, the whole facility as a whole. So it's really designed to try and be as flexible to the market as possible to attract those businesses. So that's really kind of the driver versus some high velocity, truck traffic thing. It's really to be customized to the businesses.
And then I get that, right? And I'm not even trying to fight that. But then I just do want to be sure that whatever traffic study is done, the dual dock obviously implies more possibility for semi and truck traffic. So make sure that the traffic study takes that into account when doing it. Couple other things. I hear you talk about some of the headquarters that you've done and bringing a little more business side. Those are probably parks 2 and 3. I'm maybe using a little bit of judgment here, but that's a little more likely in buildings 2 and 3 than building 1. If building 1 is a little more industrial and truck, do you still think that that's realistic for buildings 2 and 3 to be a little more, more of a commercial use than pure industrial, or does the use of building 1 almost dictate kind of where buildings 2 and 3 will go? And do you have? I'm sure you have experience, but what have you found in your experience of similar type developments? Do buildings 2 and 3 just follow building 1, or can you really, they share a parking lot, they share a line almost, right? How delineated can these types of projects be?
I'll take a look.
Sure. First of all, the good news is, I'm sure you've seen them around, but this is a modern corporate grade industrial park that's looking to appeal to Fortune 500 as well as Main Street. So the image will be very strong, even if a building happens to have docks on 2 sides. So there's no reason for, say, a regional distribution or light assembly facility that you couldn't have a significant amount of office use in that building as well. The key feature here, and it's a little different than retail, to the north, is that Paul and his team is going to be investing about $20 million, getting all that land prepared, building that first building, kind of on the Field of Dreams program. If you build it, they will come. So that's extremely important, because speed to market for a lot of these corporations when they make decisions, I'm sure you guys are all familiar with that with your work, they want it like yesterday, right? You've been telling your boss for 18 months you got to do this, and they make the decision after 17 months, and then they want it, of course, the next month. So that'll be a key part of the project and a key competitive advantage to bringing that business to Lockport. But to your point, does that drive the other site? What it does is drive businesses to pay attention to Lockport and to this site, and probably that phase 2 will at least 50% probability be a build-to-suit customized to a specific company that's choosing Lockport. And the main driver helping getting them down there was Paul's investment of $20 million in that first building. And these guys are all in business, they're all in commerce, car traffic and truck traffic. You want to have the safety and separation, all those good things. But other than that, these people all engaged in commerce, and they understand commerce travels by truck in many cases. So it's a pretty standard at any business park, throughout Chicago. So I think we can kind of feel good about it. It's not like somehow having a flexible building to divide down to smaller tenants with docks on both sides somehow changes a tone of what you might be able to attract otherwise. So I don't know if that
Yeah.
answered the question.
Yeah, and then finally, and you guys may or may not even be aware of this, and frankly, it's probably not your main concern, but one thing that we've sort of tried to do and have talked about, and something that I've been a proponent of, is the bike path that's going to be going through. The bike path was going to use 163rd Street going through that area. Like I said, I bike there on the street now, but what I do is irrelevant. But, I don't want to... Bike path may not be the best spot right now, right? If it is going to be high construction or high semi-traffic on 163rd. So maybe this is more Pam or staff, is to kind of take a look at, what makes sense for the bike path going forward. And then I haven't seen the detail of the entire site map, but maybe if it worked out, if a sidewalk was going to be required, could we widen that a little bit and make the bike path just off the street? Just something from a safety standpoint. I don't know that a bike path on 163rd will make sense going forward on the actual street.
Right. I mean, that's definitely an option, and a lot of communities do that. Putting one off the street is obviously much better than having one on the street. I guess what we'll do is we'll just have to take a look at and see what areas, have already been accounted for, where the connections are going to take place. And, maybe that is something that staff needs to take a look at, just across the community as well, to see if there is some opportunity to switch out on one side of the street, have a sidewalk, the other side of the street, put a bike path in. That can be common practice.
Just given the bike path where it's going to go north-south and this kind of being the east-west connection, if it turns out that being off-street on 163rd is the ideal place, we'd rather know that before construction starts
Absolutely.
than do something and then say, oh crap, we would have liked a bike
Right.
path there.
Yeah, and the other alternative too is if a sidewalk is required, we hold off having them put it in until, there's some sort of, because obviously connecting a bike path to nowhere isn't going to be feasible. But, again, taking a look at the globalness of it all and seeing where it makes sense to do that.
So just some thought to that in general, not necessarily your main concern, but I'd like to see some planning there as well. Thank you.
Well, that's interesting too, and maybe even the consideration of when you guys put these buildings in is having walking or bike paths that run, kind of north and into the kind of the retail restaurant area that we've got. I mean, it's right next door, and to have employees be able to walk to those lunch places, helps make it more marketable too. I mean, perhaps it's something to consider as well.
Okay.
All right.
I'm sorry, I did have one more question. So I know in total, and I'm sure this has been considered, but in total it meets codes for parking and things like that. I did think it was a little bit odd that building one at 2.5 times the size of the other buildings has less parking than one of the others, and I think just slightly more than the other. If building one in the building one parking is built, does that in and of itself conform with parking codes, or was parking looked at as the entire project altogether?
We haven't looked into it in that much detail since it was just a concept plan. But when it does come in for preliminary, we certainly will take a close look at that.
Okay.
And I believe you're going to be subdividing this, right?
Yes.
Yes. So each individual lot would be looked at to make sure that the parking can be accommodated on site.
But would we know the number of lots that will be subdivided at that time, or would that be kind of future?
Well, he's showing on the concept plan, there'd be three
Three.
lots. Each building would be on its own lot.
Right.
Right, so that's what I'm saying. As a whole, right, there's a certain amount of spaces per square feet. That number looks better because of buildings 2 and 3, because they have, one of them, I think building 3 has more parking than building 1, and building 2 is very close, even though the square foot is
Right.
almost a third of the size. So if only building 1 gets built and only the parking for building 1, just want to make sure that that's still within code.
Absolutely, and we would evaluate that.
All right. Anything else, folks?
Yeah, I just wanted,
248 for building 1, and then 260 something here, like 230 there.
I just wanted to make sure that we incorporate the recommendations from the Planning Commission that require the traffic study to be done, and to make sure that the cost of the improvements that need to be done are worked out between you and Panattoni. And it also says that you need to confirm that the Tollway Authority says that the bridge over I-355 is designed to accommodate truck weights. I don't know if you've gotten that, Pam, yet or not. You have gotten it? You
We
did?
have it. We'll
Okay.
get it updated.
All right, good. Okay, that's all I wanted.
Thank you.
All right, crew. Appreciate it, fellas. Thanks for coming out, giving us a presentation.
Thank you so much.
All right. Is this something we're comfortable with on a consent agenda?
Yes.
All right, will do.
Thank you.
All right, Dan, you want to talk about our marketing plan?
Yeah, it's been a while. Almost feel like I need a break, but we'll keep going.
Yeah, let's try to.
We can make it.
I'm going to pass out some handouts here. The next item on the agenda, Mayor and members of the council, is the 2015 Community Marketing Plan. As you're all aware, in 2014, we did a partnership with the Heritage Corridor Convention and Visitors Bureau for $40,000 worth of marketing for the community. I've included a lot of those formats that we did. We had billboards, we had online banners, we had West Suburban Living, we had playbills in theaters, we did some localized radio. And all in all, we felt the campaign was pretty successful in reaching over 1 million people. So in the budget allocation, what we put together for 2015, we increased that a little bit to $48,000. And we're going to mix it up a little bit. Some of the things we're going to do again, but other things we're not. We're going to try to reach some additional people. And one of the big components of that is the WLS radio program. And what I'm handing out to you now is a packet in regards to that. And we do have Tracy from WLS. I know she's going to come up and go through a brief presentation in regards to what some of the differences are for this type of radio advertising.
Did you get like to the same page? Okay.
Just escape.
Just escape.
And minimize.
And then
Well, while Tracy's getting set up, I mean, I could speak just for a moment about some of this. One of the things that I wanted to make sure we do, and one of the reasons I've asked staff to put this together and find these different avenues for advertising is, I want to make sure that we're being proactive to attract people here, as even these guys with the business parks and the retail centers go. I mean, they want to attract high-quality users for these buildings, and the more that we are out in front of the public with Lockport and putting our best foot forward, the better opportunities we have to attract people as opposed to just take what comes. And so it's been important for me to make sure that we do reach out. And so WLS just happens to be one of the opportunities that we explored here with this package.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you guys so much for having me here tonight. WLS Community Discovery Program, what it is integrated, multi-facet marketing program that is strictly focused on opportunities in the south and southwest suburbs. So from a residential standpoint, a new business standpoint, you guys have a lot of great things going on. I've heard of a ton of exciting movement in this city, as well as some of your neighboring towns like New Lenox. It's currently involved. Romeoville soon to be involved. Moni is involved with this program. And I have about 6 verbals throughout the south and southwest suburbs that are coming on board as well. We don't want to flood them all in at one time, so we're trying to strategically launch them 1 month at a time. We did a soft rollout on this program in October, and we're already seeing a lot of great traction. And what it is, it's supported by WLS AM radio and WLS FM, so two of the most heritage, I'm sorry, I'm like parched, two of the most heritage radio stations in the market. We know through our rating systems, Arbitron, the business decision makers that we reach, C-level executives, people with the power of making those decisions on whether to move, relocate, or expand a company to a new region. I do have some of this information in your packet, but I'm going to start off real quick just to get a better understanding of the program. Radio is theater of the mind, and I'm going to play a couple of the promos that are actively running on both WLS AM and FM promoting this community discovery, Discover the South and Southwest Suburbs. Bear with me for 1 minute.
offers a lot of outdoor recreation and cultural activities to keep you busy. From low crime rates to an accredited education system and access to top-notch health care, there are many variables to consider when choosing that perfect place that you and your family can call home. To help make this decision more convenient for you, visit the new WLS Community Discovery feature tab at WLSAM.com and discover what beautiful communities like Lockport have to offer your family. The WLS Community Discovery feature at WLSAM.com makes it easier for you to explore your next move. That's the Community Discovery feature tab at WLSAM.com and explore Lockport and other communities in the south and southwest suburbs and what they have to offer your family.
Okay, so that clearly was the one that's more residential focused, and here is an economic development focused spot.
Running out of space for your business?
Can you put it closer to the mic?
Need an upgrade? It might be time to move or expand your business to another location. Choosing a business location is perhaps the most important decision a business owner will make and requires precise planning and research. Visit the 94.7 WLS Community Discovery feature tab today at 94.7WLS.com to discover the most business-friendly communities of the south and southwest suburbs. This region is full of communities that offer aggressive incentives for all sizes of businesses, from small to medium-sized commercial to sprawling industrial and manufacturing space. Great towns like Lockport are ready and eager to help the success of your business. Go to the 94.7 WLS Community Discovery feature at 94.7WLS.com today and discover other great communities to start, expand, or relocate your business. Brought to you by Old Plank Trail Community Bank, hometown banking at its best.
And then one last one. So these are the promotional announcements, just to give you a quick background with the program here. We are WLS AM and FM. We're owned by a company called Cumulus, and Cumulus is allocated $250,000 towards launching this program. We are doing the hard launch on January 27th. We did the soft launch with New Lenox in October. In just 1 month's time, you will find in your packets, and I'm going to try to make this quick because I know you have a lot of other things to cover, but in just 1 month's time, New Lenox, their first month, we brought 300 click-throughs that came through the community discovery page. Do you guys see this up here too? You do? Okay. Let me scroll down here. This happens to be New Lenox's page. So here we're using our media, our sellable airtime, and like I said, $250,000 worth in digital media and on-air media, driving people to the site to use it as a source. You know, whether it's a young family looking to make their next move, where they want to, raise children. What are the factors they look at? Safe communities, obviously, access to great health care, solid health care, schools, of course. So we're trying to make it, instead of someone, just going to a random Google search and checking out new communities, collectively, even though each community has their own special initiatives they get to focus on in their involvement with this program, but it's also a collective effort to brand the south and southwest suburbs. There's a lot of great opportunities, a lot of wonderful communities, and if one doesn't look good, your neighbor doesn't look good. So, it's sort of a co-op, so to speak. And within that reference, but the opportunities to customize this program and tailor it exactly to what your initiatives are huge. Just a real brief background with the experience I've had. Prior to joining WLS, I worked with WBBM News Radio for 5 years. And I actually started the Village of Bedford Park campaign from its infancy. So before they went on to any other radio stations, they called WBBM in 2009, when no one was doing anything like this. And we thought it was very, municipality, trying, focusing on, targeting new businesses. We knew we had the audience. We weren't certain it was going to work. But, the whole key in this program, what I've learned, and I have a lot of great success stories I'd be happy to share with any of you guys at a later date, is the creative of the program. Keeping it fresh. You'd be so surprised on how targeted and how niche we got with some of their messaging and the success that came out of there. We, within the first 2 years, brought 2 Fortune 500 companies in, farmed here the country's largest indoor vertical farming company, came in off of BBM Advertising. Also, the world's second largest Dunkin' Donuts manufacturing company came in. So those are just two of at least a couple dozen companies that came in. When I started working with them, excuse me, they were at 45% capacity in their industrial space. To date, they're sitting at about 95%. So that's just a little bit of what I witnessed with the radio, and just aligning the right messaging with the right demographics. Our listeners are homeowners. They have high amounts of income as well as disposable income. The age group is right, and like I said, the amount of business decision makers and business owners we reach between two stations is more than any other station standing alone in the market. So we definitely know that these two stations are the right ones to drive direct leads, to your community. Lastly, I'm going to, just so you get an idea of what your customized commercial would actually, thank you, could sound like.
Lockport is a historic city on the move. Located 30 miles southwest of Chicago, Lockport is a delightful mix of quaint history and modern charm. Lockport's downtown physical and historical attributes make it a natural place of connection and a wise place to bring your business. Upwards of 20,000 vehicles pass through the heart of downtown each day along Routes 7 and 171. This number continues to get stronger every day with the new interchange 355. Whether you are a business, an investor, or a developer, it only makes sense to put your money where you'll receive the greatest return. Let's hear from Dr. Lauren Davis of Chicago Spine Institute of Lockport about how her business is growing in Lockport. Lockport's Mayor Steve Strite and his economic development team are passionate about growing Lockport's business community by offering incentives that are specifically designed to attract new as well as retain current business. Visit thevillageoflockport.org or email pam@lockport.org today to schedule a visit.
She's like, no. So that was just a spec spot, of course. It was a 60-second spot. And when I say with the creative and what was so successful with Bedford and Hanover Park and some other communities I've worked with, is you can take these units and slice them and dice them however you want. So you get really creative with them. Where maybe the first 40 seconds is about Lockport and then the last 20 seconds is either featuring an existing business, because people like to hear the success of other businesses in their community, right? So not only, that also helps, from a business retention standpoint here. And whether we do it on air or we do it online, that's why there's so many great touch points to this program. One being that portal. And this right here, what I have up right now, is just, as a soft rollout, we did the communities that we were close to working with. So Lockport's actually been up for a couple months. This page is completely customizable to, you can promote some of the great new developments that we heard about earlier this evening, feature existing business spotlights. We can embed video, connect it to all your social medias. If you look over here to the left, these tabs are all customizable, so it's whatever you want to make them. Right now I have available properties, and we link that right to your LoopNet. Go back. I mean, the whole key is getting your, being known before you are needed. Whether it's by, again, the next business moving into this area or the next family. Economic development takes you right to your economic development page of your website. So it's not to draw business, people to our website. It's to get your website in front of people and not to just have to go do a random category search in a Google. So the great thing about all the digital elements, and I just showed you a couple of them, radio is local. Between our two stations, we have a 1.7 person reach, which is huge. But people use radio in a market like this. They look at the time they spend in their cars commuting. They want to know, what highways are shut down, what the travel times are, what the weather, breaking news, all of that stuff. So, this program may not work in a smaller market, but it's definitely proven to work, in the Chicago market and helping grow communities from a community development standpoint and economic development. And again, going back to the digital aspects, only add additional touch points to the program. Okay, what's great is about digital is, radio is always known that it's very hard to track. How did you hear about us? Are people that are answering the phones gonna say that? So, you hold us accountable for that. And the nice thing about all the digital elements in this program is it does hold some accountability, because we can provide you with monthly reports that show the traffic and the interaction that people had, not only with your page in this program. Another one of the digital elements, let's see if I can just catch one here. Just going back, to our main web page, all of the partners in this program get their own customizable 300 by 250 banner ad and the leaderboard banner ad. So they're right on the home page. They're not at the bottom of the page. They're not, in different sections of our website. They're right there when you go to our web page. And people use our websites a lot. We have high traffic. We have very high streaming numbers. We're both LSA AM and FM are very big at work listening stations. From the music format, from the FM, because it's safe. It's Chicago's classic hits. We still have Dick Biondi on our station, which is huge. Just a lot of heritage. And on the AM as well. We just had Steve Dahl recently come back, and there's been some programming changes, but all for the good. Our ratings are proving it. Again, the web traffic is awesome. So that's another one of the many digital elements in this program is streaming. Every commercial that airs for Lockport is also going to be duplicated on our stream, which is a completely different set of listening ears. So, at any given time, day part where you may have 500, 600,000 listeners during that day part, on the stream it's going to be less, but they're more captive because they're streaming you at work, you're in the background, they're engaging in, their Steve Dahl show or whatnot. So that's another one of the digital elements of the program. Something we've added to it is including an e-blast. So monthly, you'll have the choice to, based on availability, to promote an event or a development, anything messaging you want to promote on either of the two stations. So that's great. So basically, the program consists of your own 30-second on-air commercials, inclusion in the community profile page. This is 12 months. It's a marathon, not a sprint, is how we look at this. WLS event support, in which our promotions team will support. I know you have a lot going on in the summer with your historical events and art shows. We will have a radio personality out here and do a 2-hour mini remote. And then additional above and beyond what your paid advertising is, we will promote the event 2 weeks, of our own inventory leading up to that. So banner ads, just a lot of creative. And like I said, we rolled it out in October, and it's been very well received. I've been working on this since last May. Actually, I think Lockport, Mayor Streit was one of the first communities I met with when we were planning this. So that's about it, I believe, for the sake of time, unless anyone has any questions.
Just have a couple comments. I've been
Okay.
listening to WLS
Yeah, please.
for many, many years. I listened to all the various personalities over the past 20, 25 years. But I know Moni, they've been advertising prior to this particular program for many, many months. And, it makes me listen. I'm an alderman in Lockport, so I hear it. I know a lot of business people listen to WLS 890. So I'm a strong proponent of this particular program. And personally, when Hart's Lago Vista was advertising in WLS, people at work and family, friends, they know I live in Lockport, and they'll make comments. It's like, oh, I hear Lago Vista, Lockport. So I do know for sure that this actually works as far as reaching out to not only residential potential, but business potential.
It really does. And it's important, I think, to point out, too, is, like I said, it's been very, very well received with all the South and Southwestern communities I've met with. And everyone's on different fiscals, which is great because you're not all coming on at the same time. We realize it's a process, but it's a great time. Things are definitely turning around. The talk out there, I can't say just for the sake it's not a closed deal yet, but I can say one of the communities that's involved with this program is very close to closing a Fortune 100 $1 million company coming in. It's not finalized, but it's so you just have to look at it as, wow, in 1 year's time, you know, you're on consistently. We've really designed this so you're not on 3 months and then, you know, if you're out of sight, out of mind. You know, this, you'll always be embedded within all the digital elements. It's always going to be living, eat, sleep, breathing 24/7 on our websites. All the promotional support that we're putting, driving people to this and branding this and the south and southwest suburbs. You know, you get one company that comes in, doesn't even have to be that large. It definitely more than pays, you know, for the investment. And we look at this as a true partnership. I mean, our stations, we want to be embedded within the communities. For instance, we just did the 28th annual Dick Biondi Toy Drive out in New Lenox at Walmart. It was the best one we've had yet in 28 years. So, you know, we definitely extend additional opportunities that, you know, to support you that's not necessarily, you know, included in the program, because we look at this as a long-term partnership, not here today, gone tomorrow. So
You have Steve Dahl come over for Canal Days. He could announce.
Sure. Oh yeah, I'm sure he'll be down with that
during his time slot too.
Yeah. I'll run that by him. We just had him out at we did a big event out at the Horseshoe Casino in Northwest Indiana. He was signing up people for his podcast and interacting with the crowds, and it's probably, I think, 2,600 tickets. It was a football event and then followed by an Eddie Money concert. So, but it was great. People are really engaged with our station events, you know, as well as our station. Personality and the programming is top notch, and it's only getting better. So we're really excited that you guys have given us this opportunity to work with you. You know, one thing I do say very, you know, it's not, this is it. You know, thanks for coming on board. Here's your commercial. See you. I meet with my communities, if not once a month, you know, every 2 months to see, you know, what the feedback is, not only from your community, but the business community about the messaging, if it's, you know, if we have it nailed, if we want to tweak it a little bit. You're not stuck with one commercial message. You know, with Bedford Park, I had, you know, sometimes 3 to 5 messages airing at once. And like I said, how you can slice and dice those commercials, you know, we would feature specific opportunities within your business parks, and, you know, hey, this would be great for, you know, brewing company or a beverage distillery because Bedford Park has access to water, Midway, you know, the rail. I mean, people need to know that, and it does fall on the right ears. And, you know, after 5 years of working with them, every community was coming on, you know, how do we get on board with this? And with BBM, it was a little bit of a different, seeing that it's such a huge station and it's more national advertising, the type of budget that it would take to really have an effective campaign didn't necessarily, you know, gel with a lot of the communities, especially at that time. So I'm really excited. Our stations are really excited and really behind this program, and they're giving it their all. So, yeah, that's it.
All right, Tracy, I appreciate it. Any other comments for?
I just have one.
Okay.
I think being important to it's important to be able to tailor our message. I'm a little hesitant on things like this, and I don't want to be seen as me too to some extent to our neighbors. But I do think that, in my mind, right, when I was buying a house out here about 5 years ago, a radio ad wasn't necessarily going to sway me buying a house. I did my own research, but I do think, in my opinion, the business side is where we might get more value. So I don't know who we work with, and I don't know how we decide what ads to run when. But if we're going to go with this, you know, let's try to target this a little bit and see what makes sense for us, what we're trying to develop, and what we think would be most impactful, I guess. So I think it's good that
Absolutely.
we have the ability to do it, but let's stay on top and make
Absolutely.
sure we utilize that ability.
And like I said, we have the flexibility to do that. And I think a gentleman made a really good point earlier is, you know, really focusing on that community development, and that's the businesses are going to come. And that's, to be honest with you, that's really the approach that New Lenox is taking. And their messaging is solely more focused on their Silver Cross, their schools, their, you know, I know that you guys win a lot of the similar awards from like NerdWallet and whatnot. And we mention those, you know, those are important. I'm 40 years old myself. I live in the city, and I can't tell you how many friends I've had over the last like 3 5 years that are not from Illinois, transplants from Michigan or Wisconsin or Iowa or whatnot. You know, you have that second child and you're like, okay, where do I go? If you don't have family ties, and there's a lot of those people, you know, I mean, daycare is expensive and, you know, in the city, it is anywhere. But people are looking for those communities. And we can, you know, most certainly, some of your newer developments, not only from a young family standpoint or where, you know, looking for somewhere to raise their family, but empty nesters that want to downsize and go into a different, you know, like a 9750 type of thing in Orland Park or a townhome. Or so there's ways that we can tag messaging of your partners and your current developments into the radio and the online. So it's a win-win for everybody.
I've got to agree with Bob Peretta, though. I mean, when they were running Lago Vista ads on WLS, people started talking about Lockport, and when I've been listening to WLS for a long time, and
thank you.
Before
oh yeah.
But anyway, so I mean, I grew up on WLS, and it's a you know, as far as our market goes, as far as that, I mean, you're right. WLS and WBBM are about the biggest competitors in that. Of people who, if we can get their ears, and in my business, WLS is on all day long. So
sure,
it's so. I think this is be very, and I've been listening to the new Lennox ads, and you should probably take those off. I think you've reached saturation on that.
Well, it's funny you say that because I actually have a meeting with Balderman next week. But
don't worry, our amenities will completely eclipse New Lenox as soon as ours are on there.
Well, one thing to point out too is you guys will be airing on both AM and FM, and New Lenox, their first year on board with us, is strictly focused on, they're only playing on the FM. They're customized commercials. However, the promos, like I played the sample ones, that's I don't know if I mentioned, but that's just above and beyond. You're not paying for those. So when you guys launch, hopefully in February, you're only going to be rotating with those promos. 40 of them are airing a week, 20 on the AM and 20 on the FM. So it's an equal rotation of just, right now it will be Moni, New Lenox, and Lockport. Romeoville looks like they're probably going to be coming on next. I know I have Justice coming on in a couple months, and several more, possibly second quarter.
Are we allowed to run anti-New Lenox ads in our spots? Yeah. Yeah.
We'll discuss that later.
Well, Mayor and Council, obviously, you know, this will be customizable. There'll be 30-second ads that we can promote events at certain times of the year. We can promote commercial opportunities at certain times of the year. We can promote restaurants. So for us, it was the flexibility to change the message that was important. This will be an annual presence. Tracy's already talking to me about 2016. I said, well, let me get through 2015 first. But this will be in a partnership with the Heritage Corridor. We'll be actually sending money to the Heritage Corridor. They'll be signing the contracts and doing some of these other marketing things for us as well. And so we'll be changing up the creative as we go. But it's an exciting new component to our advertising for community.
I have one more
Yeah.
thing about WLS. I worked with Dick Biondi back in 1976 at a Santa house in the Grange.
Really?
And he was.
I love him.
He was older then.
Hey, he's still going. He's actually on a little minor break, and unfortunately, it happened right after the toy drive. He slipped and kind of had a bad fall, and so he's recovering. There's a temporary radio personality in for him right now, but he's going. I think he's 85.
I mean,
and he did a 12-hour broadcast from the Walmart in New Lenox, and I'm telling you what, it was nonstop. And he's done events for us where there's been Bears players even at, and more people were lined up with WLS memorabilia than to see Israel Adonijah, and that is no joke. We have photos. We have photos to prove it. We do.
I think WLS fired him 3 or 4 times. So.
Yeah. Well, he's a character, but.
That was in the 60s.
All right, I'm bringing down the gavel.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Are any other questions? Is the consent agenda okay with something like this?
Yes.
Okay.
I think that's a terrific idea.
All right, thank you.
Only if Steve Dahl comes to give a.
All right, Ben, you want to move? Thanks, Tracy. Do you want to Can we breeze through the rest of these, or do you guys need?
Yeah, no,
we could
let's
breeze.
keep it going.
All right, let's make it happen.
9:25. I apologize. I'll try to spread out topic items more often throughout the year. Okay, the next item on the
Is that
agenda.
what that was?
This
All
is
right.
still the first one.
Yeah.
No, mine wasn't.
No, not much, yeah.
All right, so what do you got? Ben, you're on council
Okay,
chambers here?
yeah, we do have council chambers renovations is your next memo item. Last year, as you remember, we did partner or contracted with Bashar Mitchell and Architects. I know Brett is here this evening. If we have some, he's been a very patient young man out there. So he did some drawings for us. Thank you, Jack, for pulling up some of those. Last year, we did do a few improvements. We bought some chairs. We bought some TVs. We did some microphones. We're going to do some more microphones. We want to replace the carpeting. We're going to need to do the drapes because we're going to build some coatings on the wall and actually build out a proper operations area for the LCTV. Wonderful staff back there in the corner so they're not behind a plastic board or whatever that is. And so, where we've done this with a general contractor process, where our Birdie will come in. If you've noticed, the big old screen is missing. They came in and did that for us, and so they went out for competitive bids for us. I encouraged them to try to find local businesses as much as they could in this process. I'm pleased to report that several Marshall Tile is going to be doing the carpet and the installation. One of the new firms downtown on State Street, Design Studio of Lockport, will be replacing the vertical blinds. Vertical blinds aren't terrible, but we actually need to cut them shorter because of some of the wall vinyl coatings that we're doing, and they're so old that if we try to cut them, they're brittle. They're just going to break. So it's about $3,400. We're just going to replace the vertical blinds. I didn't want to spend a whole lot of money on blinds, so we're just going to replace the same kind of cheap blinds. So if you the total cost for this is about $57,000. That's a $47,000 build out. That's about $6,800 in AV and IT upgrades, and then the blinds. We have had some complaints about the imagery not looking too good at home, and we want to make sure we fix that. We did buy new cameras last year. The rebroadcasts are clear, but the live broadcasts are a little fuzzy, and so part of this fix will be making sure that we have a live broadcast that has a better signal. So this should kind of wrap up what we need to do here in council chambers for you.
Okay. Any questions?
No. Consent?
I'm good with consent. Sounds good. Thank you, Ben.
Brett, thanks for coming.
Sorry about that, man. All this for that? Yeah, you could.
We'll have you meet Steve Dahl.
Yeah. The third item I had under my report is just a verbal update on Central Square. The three parties of Central Square have agreed at our last meeting. I'm the current chair, and we took a vote to replace the roof on this building, so we will be doing that. We'll be spending over $200,000 replacing the roof. That will be utilizing reserve funds and current allocations, so we won't be coming back to ask for any other funding to complete that. And we also put a stipulation on it that if we can get this design done and done by June 1st, that's great. If we can't get it done by car show season, we're going to hold off until the fall. So that was just kind of I'll be able to report back when we're going to be able to do that. There'll be probably several weeks worth of work. Actually, Brett's the same designer for the roof to do the designs and make sure we have everything that's going to go the way it's supposed to. And we should be able to get it done by June 1st. But again, if we can't, we will hold off until the fall. So that was my verbal Central Square update.
Thank you for our update.
Okay.
Sorry, to just go back just for a second.
Sorry.
The council chamber renovations, is there anything that we need to put on the agenda for that?
Consent.
Yeah, I guess you can have a vote, or you can put it on consent. I mean, we'll be seeking total amount of already put it away.
I'm fine. Yeah, are we
$57,948.86 for those contracts.
Are we okay with the consent on this?
Yeah.
Are we good?
Thank you.
And we
Sorry
will
about
obviously
that, Alex.
be trying to complete that this spring. We will have to work around the court dates, our council dates, other uses. So there'll be you'll see some periods of some things happening and then some things not happening. But we'll try to get this wrapped up. It's really probably less than 90 days worth of work. So.
Okay. Thanks, man. All right, we're jumping down to Lisa.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. In your packets it was a council memo for an IVR and an online payment solution. We're trying to give our residents more options to be able to pay bills here to the city. The residents are requesting this. What the solution is going to offer them is they could click on a link on the city's website and then go to pay their water bills or building permits online by selecting what they want to pay for. Or they could also call an 800 number and pay 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We're going to start out with water bills first, and then we're going to expand to the parking tickets. I've talked to the chief and building permits for Pam. But another area I see that it would be important is for the commuter lots. So those people who work downtown that take the train would be able to pay online instead of coming into the city hall here to pay for their parking permits on a monthly basis or quarterly basis, however they're handling that. We're still not going to accept credit cards here at City Hall. So if somebody wants to pay by credit card, we will direct them to using the computer to make an online payment or through the IVR, through an 800 number. So with PCI compliance and what's necessary here and all the data breaches, we have opted to not offer that solution here right off the bat. But it's just as easy for them. Everybody's got a cell phone. It's just as easy for them to make that payment on their phone. So if they do happen to show up here and want to pay, we'll direct them to do that. There is a convenience fee. This is entirely held by the company who's processing the payment. Nothing comes back to the city. It's $1.89 per transaction. Residents are used to this, especially when they're trying to use a credit card for paying a government. So if you pay your property tax bill, there's a convenience fee. If you go to the state of Illinois to pay for a license plate, there's a convenience fee. So that is a convenience to the resident to be able to pay with a credit card or a debit card. And the city doesn't, cover those costs associated with that. So once we get approval from council to do this, it'll be about a 3-week turnaround to be able to have this up and running. So we'll do it in stages, but it's something our residents are looking for, and I'm happy to be able to offer that to them.
Is there any way that we could set it up that they could pay through PayPal?
There is the ability to do that. This. As in addition to this,
so that they could pay their water bills through PayPal.
Through PayPal, I really didn't even look into PayPal at all. I was looking through a payment processing company because they're going to provide us the information back electronically. We can hopefully import that into our. Okay.
And also PayPal, I think there wouldn't be a fee.
There's no fee to pay with PayPal?
There's a fee.
Yeah. I just anecdotally, I know one small business that tried to use PayPal, and there is a fee, and they struggled with, essentially you tell somebody they owe you $30, they send you $30 in PayPal. To have PayPal processed through invoice numbers, the loop didn't circle well for them. Totally one anecdotal situation, but I do know one small business that tried PayPal and ended up going away from it.
I know Lockport always set up with PayPal, and it seemed to work.
That's a little different. You're not giving a receipt for a specific invoice then, right? There's a donation or something, or somebody's manually matching them. Right.
But they can, though. I mean, when I use PayPal, you can get an invoice back immediately.
It's $1.89 per transaction. That's what it is. It's $1.89 per transaction.
That's what they're. I never pay anything on PayPal, and I do buy things and pay through it. So
somebody's paying it though. They're just
sure
absorbing
somebody is,
it.
but I'm not.
Right.
Maybe it's coming through PayPal. Maybe they're just like, they pay for Discover card. They pay credit card charges too, and I don't pay them. But people will still be able to have the direct withdrawal.
Yes, the automatic withdrawal, yes.
Okay.
So this is just in addition to the services we already offer. We still have the Dropbox. They can still come to City Hall, mail their payments. This is just one more convenient way to help those people who are looking for another payment option.
Sure.
So it's an addition. But yeah, I'm sure if there's PayPal's doing it, somebody's paying that fee. I'm not aware of any credit card transaction that doesn't have a fee associated with it. So they're probably just absorbing it.
Not always the consumer.
This is a choice. This is a choice. People don't have to use this. If they choose not to use this, they don't pay the $1.89. I don't know why we're discussing this any further.
We just have to make it free.
Yeah, it's an okay.
Jeez.
It's an okay. Darren, it's okay. It's just a question. I mean, the only rub I have with PayPal is I always feel like I'm leaving the site. I think with the correct me if I'm wrong, if this is going to be integrated more into our website, you feel like you're on the same site, you're not leaving it. I don't feel like
You are leaving our website because that's how they get all the PCI compliance and.
But it's all the code
but
is.
they are going to have it look like our website, so they're
Exactly.
going to.
You get the little green security thing on the top, but you
Right.
still. I think it's comfortable for people, and I find it more comfortable when I'm paying through a site that still has the same design, still has the same feel. I don't feel like I'm getting through. I just find it more comfortable than jumping to PayPal. It's not like I don't use PayPal sometimes when there's no option, but I do prefer to go through the companies, like when I'm buying something, when it's a system that's integrated better. I just think it's more comfortable, quite frankly. That's why I would advocate for this, just for that reason alone. It feels more professional as well. But that's a decision we can make.
I think it's a good idea. It's no harm. It's an extra option for the residents.
Right.
You know,
As long as they know
they don't
that
have
there's
to
a
pay a
fee.
fee.
Right.
They can pay the traditional way if they want it. I totally support it.
Plus, this company is owned by a Lockport native, which is also a good thing.
It's is it Heartland?
Heartland, yes. Heartland Payment Solutions.
No, that's another added benefit, right? Having Heartland do it.
I did seek other proposals, and they were the lowest. The city, I'm sorry, not the city, but the state of Illinois also offers an e-pay option, which a lot of municipalities use. It's a sliding scale, and based on what our water bills are like, the people would be paying a lot more than just what is being offered here, which is why this was another perfect solution, perfect fit for us.
Great. Elisa, just one question. Somebody decides to use the online payment, will it disclose the fee?
Absolutely. It'll be
That's
disclosed
important
right on there,
because
yes.
We did something very similar. It was a different service. There was no disclosure. It was only $1, but still, we weren't disclosed. I just want to make sure there's a disclosure.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
All right. Do you guys feel the need to vote on this, or is it okay with the consent then?
Consent.
Consent.
All right. Thank you. All right, Chief, what do you got?
Police Department has Resolution 007, we're asking that 5 vehicles be surplus. All of them are in poor condition with high miles. We're seeking permission to surplus the vehicles.
Consent.
Sounds good. Thank you. Big Joe, what do you guys didn't want to sit at the table with the food? Is that the problem?
I'd like to see what's going on.
Oh, okay. I thought you guys just didn't want to feel like you ate all the food. Yeah.
I think the foods are gone.
It does look pretty good. I've been eyeing that up for a while. I have a couple very brief updates for you.
Okay.
So,
Well, drag it out, please.
Actually, in your package, you'll see the snow response. I kind of document what times we get called out, how long we've been out. To that effect, I guess we've been out 9 times through, I believe it was January 12th was the last time out, but through January 20th of this year, we've been out 9 times. Supposed to get a little snow tonight, maybe. I don't think so, but 2 inches Sunday. But we've been out 9 times through January 20th. Last year, through January 20th, we'd been out 23 times by comparison. So I hope the trend of this year continues. We were out last year for a total of 44 times also. So at the back of that is a complaint list. So we document every complaint that comes in. We put where the complaint came from, who responded to it, how we took care of the complaint. That way, if we tend to get the same complaints in the same areas, it continues. We can talk to the driver or go from there. So, if you ever have any questions on that, you can contact me anytime. Also, salt-wise, of the 3,700-ton contract we had, we've ordered 1,200 tons this year. We still have 2,500 tons left available for this year. We have to commit to a minimum of 80%, so we can order as little as 80% of that 3,700 tons or up to 120% at that price of $53.09 per ton. So we're in pretty good shape salt-wise. Questions on that? I'll move right along. All right. On the EAB program, I wanted to update you. Since the update on September 15th, we've removed 109 more trees, 88 by Public Works and 21 by Homer. Most recently, they've been working in Karen Springs, Westwood, Fieldstone, and Saddlewood. Our tree planting program last year went pretty well. We planted 43 trees in the 2014 tree replacement program. Due to the fact that the tree choices will change with the seasons, the tree replacement program's closed now, but it will open up again in the spring. It'll be the same thing on a first-come, first-served basis, and that worked pretty well. Going back to the Tree City USA, we have the application almost filled out. It should be sent by the end of the week. We're pretty comfortable that we've done the things that we need to do to get the Tree City USA endorsement, which should then open us up for some funding for tree replacement and what have you.
Joe, what's the total? Do you have a good estimate on the total count of trees we've gotten down with the ABI? It's 100 since the last time we talked about it.
There was 2,356 total.
Yeah.
To date, we've taken down 360. We have 1996 left. I know I said at council before on September 15th that, and I thought it was a pretty conservative estimate, that I think we could get 500 a year. So I think if we kick it in gear, I mean, that's 4 years. I'd like to get it done in 3. I think if we kick it in gear and do the things we need to do, we can have all those trees removed in 3 years versus 4. So.
And just to be clear, these are only parkway trees, right? This is
Exactly.
Okay.
Right.
All right, great, Joe.
And then very lastly, looking for approval. I don't have a 007 resolution, but I have 15008, and we're looking for approval to declare vehicle number 301, which is being used by the planning department, which was a 2001 Ford Taurus, to be declared surplus and be disposed of at auction to the highest bidder. The fleet maintenance manager's recommendation to have it declared salvage is attached also. So,
I'm okay with consent. Everybody all
Consent?
right? Good?
Good enough.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Mayor, I have one item under new business I just wanted to mention in talking to the chief. We always budget, try to budget for police car purchases. In our preparations for that this year, we found out in order to keep that pricing where it is, we need to purchase those vehicles sooner than we were anticipating. It's all budgeted. So we didn't have it on the committee of the whole tonight, but we will be bringing you a council memo for request to purchase those cars at the next meeting. I believe it's 2 from Caesar funds and 2 from our budgeted funds. We just want to make you aware that we're going to bring it to council direct because we don't have time to go to another committee of the whole and get the same price. I mean, we could wait if you want, but it's going to cost us extra money, so we thought.
What sort of vehicles are they, Chief?
It's going to be 4 Ford SUV police vehicles.
Okay.
Those are Ford Interceptors?
Yeah, but the Taurus model doesn't work well. They're accident prone, and no local departments are using them. Really, it's the only game in town right now. And normally we order these vehicles in mid-March. We learned Tuesday that Ford moved up that deadline to February 13th. So if we don't order them by February 13th, we have to order the 2016 models, which would be substantially more, and we won't get them till the end of the year.
Okay. So we need to vote on this then next?
Yeah,
What you're
I'm
hoping
sorry.
for?
We will bring a memo for your vote and approval on council agenda on February 4th. That should still be in time.
Well, do you want to why don't we just vote on it in case any questions come up during the week or two? So we'll
Yeah,
just
you could leave it non-consent, it's fine.
non-consent for that, just in case there's any questions. All right, sounds good. Anything else? We good?
Motion to adjourn.
Anyone want to second that?
Second.
All right. Alderman Turner, Alderman Vandermeer, all in favor?
Aye.
I think our city council meeting's so short, we might as well just do it.
Yes, I agree.
Okay. I've been trying to turn my computer on and off, seeing as it's almost dead. It's been so long. Okay. We'll just do a quick roll call to be official here.
Sure. Rutta?
Here.
Marinowski?
Here.
Vandermeer?
Here.
Deskin?
Here.
Turner?
Here.
Smith?
Here.
And Calarelli. Absent. Capadonna?
Here. All right, looking to have a motion for a consent agenda.
Second.
Alderman Turner, seconded by Alderman Capadona. Tonight, we have the regular city council meeting minutes from January 7th, with the committee of the whole meeting minutes from January 7th, our payroll ending January 4th, approval of bills. Number 5 is PCZ case 2014-001, which is the rezoning on Archer Avenue. Number 6 was lighting grant applications. And then number 7 was the Highlands of Lockport annexation agreement, resolution 15004. We also had the Meadows at Archer Point annexation agreement. And then lastly was the Illinois 7 Frontage Road Bridge authorization for emergency repair expenditures. I have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second. Okay. Did you get that, Alice?
Yes, thank
All right,
you.
very good.
I'll
All in
vote in.
favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. And then, Alice, do we have
Yes,
executive
I
session
do.
meetings?
No, I do not have minutes.
Okay.
What I have is what I brought before the council at the last meeting. It was a motion to authorize the city clerk to release portions of the executive session meeting minutes that are no longer requiring confidential treatment.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye. Thank you. And then the next one is Donna proposed the monthly February 2015 meeting calendar for you as presented.
So moved.
Second. All right. All in favor? Aye. Okay, my friends. Anyone want to second that? Second. Okay, Alderman Turner, seconded by Alderman Perretta. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, folks.
That was the fastest city council.
I think so. That was a record.
Now have that on.
Yes. thanks.